Good evening. I call this November 12th meeting of the Morrisville Town Council to order. Thank you to those in person with us tonight, those who are unfortunately not watching via live stream. We've had some technical difficulties this evening, so we will be audio recording this meeting. We will not have any video record of this meeting, but we do plan on having this audio recording go to the public in the future, like we usually do. And those are, so many will be listening to the recording of this meeting sometime in the future. Our town mission statement, which helps guide our decisions tonight and into the future, is connecting our diverse community to an enhanced quality of life through innovative programs and services. And at this time, I'd like to point out to those in the room that our mission, our vision, and our values are on the back wall for everyone to see at any time, and we're very proud of that. This evening, Corporal Kay Hall is our Sergeant at Arms for this evening's meeting. We thank you for your attendance. This evening, Councilmember Fender will be leading our invocation. Councilmember Fender.
So I'm going to share a poem that I heard at the Unitarian Fellowship this Sunday. It's called Because by Rosemary Watala Tromer. So I can't save the world, can't save even myself, can't wrap my arms around every frightened child, can't foster peace among nations, can't bring love to all who feel unlovable. So I practice opening my heart right here in this room and being gentle with my insufficiency. I practice walking down the street heart first. And if it is insufficient to share love, I will practice loving anyway. I want to converse about truth, about trust. I want to invite compassion into every interaction. One willing heart can't stop a war. One willing heart can't feed all the hungry. And sometimes, daunted by a task too big, I ask myself, what's the use of trying? But today, the invitation is clear. To be ridiculously courageous in love, to open the heart like a lilac in May, knowing freeze is possible and opening anyway, to take love seriously, to give love wildly, to race up to the world as if I were a puppy, enduring and unjaded, stumbling on my own exuberance, to feel the shock of indifference, of anger, of cruelty, of fear, and stay open, to love as if it matters, as if the world depends on it. Thank you.
Thank you. At this time, I'd ask anyone who's able to please rise and join us in reciting the Pledge of Allegiance. We have some special guests this evening. We have 3 scouts from Morrisville who are going to come up to the dais and help us lead it. Okay. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much for joining us tonight. Before we adopt tonight's agenda, Town Council policy is to review and ensure there are no conflicts of interest or appearance of conflict of interest with any items on the agenda. Does anyone have anything they'd like to share at this time? Okay. I'd entertain a motion to adopt this evening's agenda.
I second.
I have a motion from Councilmember Bowdy, a second from Councilmember Rao. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, that carries unanimously 7-0. There are 3 items on this evening's consent agenda. The 4th Amendment of the MOU with Wake County for a joint Public Works Facility Solid Waste Convenience Center, resolution appointing advisory committee members, and the resolution authorizing an amendment to the town manager's employment agreement. Would anyone like to remove any of these for discussion before we adopt? I'd like to recognize Councilmember Johnson.
Yes, please. I'd like to remove 6B, the appointment of the advisory committee members.
Okay. I would entertain a motion to adopt the consent agenda without item 6B.
I'll make that motion.
A motion from Councilmember Johnson, a second from Mayor Pro Tem Garamella. All those in favor of adopting the consent agenda without item 6B, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, that carries unanimously 7-0. Councilmember Johnson?
So there were some corrections needed on this resolution that we're going to adopt tonight, and so I wanted to obviously make sure we're adopting the correct resolution, and then also point it out to the public because it was on our website incorrectly as well. So I just want to highlight this to make sure the public is aware that it is now corrected, and if you could put it up, do you have the correct resolution, Bianca? That would be really helpful.
There's the correct resolution for display.
And for those that were, there was just some names were incorrect and some positions were incorrect. So this is correct.
Yes.
So for the public.
Thank you.
I appreciate that.
Of course.
I would entertain a motion to adopt this resolution.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
I have a motion from Councilmember Johnson, a second from Councilmember Scroggins Johnson. All those in favor of adopting this motion, approving this resolution, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, that carries unanimously. Thank you very much. Appreciate all your hard work on this.
Of course.
And congratulations to everyone who's now on the committees. Let it be known that even if you weren't appointed to one of these committees, all of these meetings are open to the public, and we welcome people to go ahead and attend those meetings, learn more, and partake. They all have ability to share your thoughts during those meetings as well, just like we do here at Public Address. We are now at the presentation section of the agenda, and we invite Byron Hayes, Budget Director and Interim Finance Director, to come forward to facilitate the Budget Finance Department presentation.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Thank you all for giving us the opportunity to come forward and present our department budget, both for the budget and the finance department. Definitely appreciate the opportunity to be in front of you all and showcase the fine work that these two departments have been doing for this town this year. So first, I'd like to start by saying that the Budget and Strategic Department's mission is we are a department that's dedicated to optimizing resource allocation, fostering collaboration across departments within this town, as well as engaging the public in the budget process to enhance accountability and trust in local government. Additionally, the finance department is committed to providing timely, accessible, and accurate financial accountability and excellent service delivery for all customers. As a service department for the town, our customers not only are the citizens as well as council, but also our internal departments as well. And both departments strive to do everything that we can in order to make sure that both that all operations within this town continue to run smoothly and efficiently as best we can. So continuing on, just want to give you all some brief information about the department itself. Both departments have about 9 positions over those two departments. The finance department has 6 positions. The budget department has 3. Combined in both departments, we have about 106 years of combined service. Obviously, I can't say enough about all these folks that are in this department. They do such a wonderful job, and these 106 years are representative of the fine work that they do on a consistent basis. Additionally, we have 2 that are certified local government budget officers, 2 that are certified local government finance officers, as well as 2 that are certified local government procurement officers. We really do strive to maintain a level of high training and a level of high expertise within both fields. And these 6 these 6 certifications really do showcase that ability. Additionally, another way that you can see that we showcase that ability is through 30 years of consistency when it comes to receiving the GFOA, the Government Finance Officers Association ACFR Award. 30 years running means 30 years we have been doing a good job at representing the financials of this town and showcasing it to the rest of the state and the rest of the world, what it is that we are doing and how we are operating. Another example of this is with our AAA bond rating. A AAA bond rating that we received from all 3 rating agencies that we first received this in 2016 from all 3 rating agencies, something that has been reaffirmed by all 3 rating agencies in the past year. One thing I do want to point out, during these rating presentations, one of the rating companies did say that if we had the ability to receive a higher rating, they would have given us a higher rating. We were the best representation that they have seen in quite some time for financial performance, financial stability when it comes to a town, not just our town our size, but a town in North Carolina of any size. Going through the department when it comes to the actual positions, I serve as the interim finance director as well as the budget director for the town of Morrisville. We have our controller, Casey Langley. Casey, raise your hand. We also have our financial systems manager, April Dara, who's not able to be with us today. We have our purchasing and contracts manager, Karen Bass. Karen, also here. Our management and budget analyst, Don Rabb, is also not able to be here today. Our payroll administrator, Marilyn Borash, is here today. Marilyn, raise your hand. And then we have 2 vacant positions. We have one accounting position that was recently filled by Jamise Aiken. Jamise recently retired from the town of Morrisville, and we owe her a debt of gratitude for her wonderful service that she provided for 5 years here in the town with us. And then we also have another management and budget analyst that is also a current vacant position in the budget department. So moving forward with the accomplishments for both departments for the current fiscal year. We did receive, as I mentioned earlier, the GFOA ACFR Award for the 30th straight year. I do want to take a moment to just call out Nancy Emsley, the previous Town of Morrisville Finance Director. Without her, this would not have been nearly as successful of an audit year and our receipt of the ACFR Award. Nancy did a fine job at working with making sure that we got a level of stability during the transition after her retirement and making sure that everything was in place in order to be a successful transition for me, as well as a successful transition in the audit process. So I do want to call out Nancy and thank her for the fine work that she did on that audit award. Additionally, the Morrisville Means Business program, our small business program in the town of Morrisville, is continuing to connect small businesses with the town through a grant that was received by the Deborah Ross office in the United States, the federal, during the federal budget process, we received a federal earmark from Deborah Ross's office about 3 years ago, $250,000 for the small business program. I'll continue on with some other additional information about that small business program, but do want to call that out as an accomplishment that we have this year. That's an accomplishment that also could not be realized this year without 3 individuals that are not regularly a part of this department, but I do want to call them out specifically. One is Sarah Ellis. Sarah was our small business coordinator, someone who has recently left us this year as well. But Sarah's the one that really got this project started and really kept it going while she was here and really put us in a good position once she left to be able to continue that work. The other 2 individuals are Jeannie Hooks, the Director of Management Services here for the town of Morrisville, as well as Aaron Hudson, our Strategic Performance Manager. And without both of them continuing the fine work that Sarah did and making sure that the citizens and small business owners in town have access to the various programming that we were able to provide, it's really a testament to the fine work that they did as well. Additionally, policy updates. So both departments were heavily involved in working through several policy updates for the current fiscal year. Everything from P-card administration to, changes in purchasing. We really took the opportunity to try and educate the rest of the organization with changes that we had, both from a kind of a fiscal operations standpoint as well as best practices. The staff really took the opportunity to not just educate, but also work individually with departments and really make sure that they were on the right track for making sure that we maintained all those best practices, but also that they followed the rules and regulations and policies and procedures that the finance department and the budget strategic management department put forward through this particular fiscal year. So definitely want to shout out all the other departments as well for really taking the time to focus and listen to us as we go through those policies. Additionally, as I mentioned earlier, we do have a AAA bond rating from all three rating agencies in the United States, something that was initially seen in 2016 and was reaffirmed this past fiscal year, which leads us to the 2021 bond series closeout. Without those bond ratings, we would not see as nearly as successful of a bond closing just a few months ago. A bond closing that's not only going to allow us to get some very, very crucial infrastructure done, but also will help with our first ever public-private partnership that the town will undergo in conjunction with Sing Development to develop our town center green in the future. So moving on to influences for both departments. First, I want to start with policy and training. As I stated earlier, we do have a continued investment in policy and training and development, both from our own staff perspective as well as the rest of the staff in town and the other departments. Additionally, I do want to talk about property revaluation, everyone's favorite topic, something that we saw a change in unprecedented levels over the past property revaluation, something that provided the town with an opportunity to do a lot of good work for their citizens and residents, and we really focused on maintaining a high level of service with those additional funding opportunities that we have. Additionally, key personnel changes for both departments. Not only did I mention the retirement of Nancy as well as another key staff member in Jamise, but also the combination of both departments working together in conjunction to be able to get the financial and budget operations of this town going, working collaboratively with more than just two departments in silos, but really working to try and connect both departments, utilize that collaboration and that expertise from both groups to really make sure that all bases are covered, there's no lack of continuity of operations, and nothing falls through the cracks. Additionally, new accounting standards for not just previous fiscal years and the current fiscal year, but fiscal years in the future. The GASB, the Governmental Accounting Standards Board, as well as the Governmental Financial Officers Association, GFOA, are both instrumental in making sure that we provide an audit and provide financial statements that are not only representative of the work that the town does, but also indicates a level of financial stability and financial performance that anyone can utilize in order to be able to see how strong our organization operates. And so we do, as a staff, strive to maintain a high level of understanding of those accounting standards as they come online and are planned for in the future, as well as just get a general sense of understanding about how they interact with other departments and how we can make sure that nothing ends up falling outside of the basic parameters that these accounting standards provide for us. And last but not least, I do want to mention an increased service level and increased service support for the department for the rest of the town. As you all know, the town is growing rapidly, not just from a population standpoint, but also from an organization standpoint. We have new initiatives coming online. We have new positions that are being filled every day. And part of our responsibility in the budget and the finance department is to maintain a high level of service in order to be able to meet those needs. So I do just want to point out that we are continuing to strive for that high service level, and that is one of the things that influences the department operations. So moving into current initiatives, we have 4 major current initiatives, and the first thing I do want to point out is that all of these involve a level of efficiency and a level of process improvement that go into them in order for us to be successful. So the first is the FY26 budget process, taking a look at continuous improvement in that budget process. This was my first year in this organization, working to achieve a high level of success in that budget process. I felt like we did a really good job. However, I always strive to do better. And I always want to make sure that we give you all something that is not only accurate of kind of where we sit as an organization, but also shows you how we can get to what we need to get to in the future. Additionally, the year in completion. We had a successful year in close recently after the completion of the audit and the completion of the financial statements. Something that continuously striving to improve that process, make it not only run smoother, but also try and get closed a little bit earlier so that we can give you all the information that you need about the end of the year as quickly as we can. Third, I want to also point out software optimizations. One of the major initiatives that we have in this current fiscal year is the implementation of a program called Tyler Payments, looking to streamline and kind of improve our revenue collection, both from a general standpoint within the organization, but also for our development services, making sure that there is interconnectivity between all the programmings that are utilized in order to be able to collect revenue, so that we can give you all the most accurate information out of the financial statements as we possibly can. And just to let you all know, as I stated a second ago, one of our key drivers really is trying to maintain that level of transparency and that level of financial stability so that the rest of the town understands where we are as an organization. And lastly, I do want to point out our continuity of operations is a major focus and a major initiative for me for both of these departments in the current year. With the staff turnover, with the changes in, new implementation standards, as well as just the complexity of our operations in general, continuity of operations is very important in order to make sure that nothing ends up not just falling through the cracks, but also that all other departments have the ability to kind of work in a way that financial operations will not be their concern. I want to make sure that they have that police has the ability to go out and do police work, that fire has the ability to go out and do fire work, that development services have the ability to maintain our UDO, as well as the rest of the development initiatives that they have, the building inspections, the code enforcement, without having to worry about how to get into Munis and operate from a financial standpoint. That's what we're here for, not just to train them, but also to make them successful. So those are our major initiatives for the department for the year. So looking ahead, both for this current fiscal year and beyond, we have 6 major kind of initiatives that we're kind of focusing on, major ideas and kind of strategic development that we're looking to do. So number 1, capital projects tracking. We recently added a new budget analyst to the current fiscal year budget. That allows our other budget analysts to really focus on capital projects, not just from a tracking standpoint, but also from an easy use from the rest of our departments, and from a transparency standpoint to get the information out about where we stand with each of our capital projects, both to senior leadership as well as to the public and council whenever that information is requested or needed. Secondly, I want to talk about succession planning a little bit. We are a department that is small. We are a department that has to be nimble and has to be, quick on our feet when it comes to, looking at different areas of expertise within finance and budget, and that we have employees that sometimes have to, cross out of their, traditional comfort zone of what they're used to doing in order to be able to get the job done for this organization. So one of the things that I do want to really focus on in the future is looking at how we can ensure that not only are all of our finance and budget staff trained, but also that they have the ability to understand what's necessary to take those next steps within their career, and have the ability to lead this department in multiple areas whenever there is any sort of turnover or change, or whenever anyone is out. So I really do want to focus on succession planning in the future to ensure that we don't have any sort of lack of consistency if there is any turnover in the future. Also want to talk a little bit about financial reporting enhancements. As I stated earlier, when it comes to utilizing technology, both for our budget process as well as our financial statements, it's really, really important to have a very consistent and comprehensive financial reporting framework that allows us to be able to get that information out as quickly as possible and as comprehensively as possible. Additionally, training and knowledge development, just like succession planning, I want to ensure that we have a staff that is knowledgeable, not just about finance, but about town operations, in order to be able to help and collaborate with other departments to be able to get projects done. That also leads into workflow and chart of account review. Our chart of accounts in our Munis financial system are all built in a way that has been very successful for the town. However, as operations continue to grow, as things get more complicated, and we start to interact as an organization with a little bit more collaborative effort, both from a financial and capital projects perspective, seeing projects go from beginning to end with multiple departments being involved, I want to make sure that we have a system set up that everybody is not just familiar with from a consistency standpoint, but also that we have a lot of transparency and a lot of openness with the information being provided, so that all departments are able to kind of collaborate in a way that we won't kind of drop the ball, and we won't have an opportunity to miss out on any sort of information because they don't know where to look, or they don't have the ability to kind of understand and see what is there. So I want to take a look at our workflow and our chart of accounts in order to help streamline it and work with departments to make sure that it's successful for them as it is for us. And lastly, vendor and our customer relations and outreach. Customer service is a major, major focus, as I stated before. And so looking ahead, I want to make sure that we are doing everything we can to be the service department that this town needs us to be, and to be the service department that the rest of the organization and the rest of the citizens and council need us to be as well. So, taking a look at facts and figures for the budget and finance department for fiscal year 24, I want to start with $190 million. $190 million is representative of the amount of money that this town expended in last fiscal year. That's the number, the total dollar figure for the 8,600 transactions that we processed this particular fiscal year. And keep in mind, there are only 9 employees between these two departments, and at times we did not have 2 positions filled. So really, you're looking at 8,600 transactions that have been processed by 7 employees. That is an amazing amount of work that these folks are doing. An amazing amount of work. Next, I also want to point out 1,100. That is 1,100 Munis tickets resolved. Financial system issues that our financial systems manager, April Dara, is able to diagnose and close this fiscal year. That's issues, everything from not being able to have access to certain accounts that she's able to close, having issues with workflow or system integration that she's able to close, issues with functionality that everyone is kind of experiencing at times. Those are all things that she closes. And I can't state enough how instrumental April is in making sure that this organization continues to run, because of the fine work that she does in making sure that Munis continues to run. Also want to point out the number 30, which is the number of small business grants that were awarded over the course of the fiscal year. Those 30 small business grants made up about $130,000 worth of financial assistance that the town was able to provide for small business owners in this community. We all know that, COVID might have started 4 years ago, and there are times when it feels like it's winding down. some of these small business owners are still feeling the effects, and this town was able to provide them with funding that helped their businesses to be able to survive for another year. So that's something that not only we can be proud of, but you all can be proud of as well. And lastly, I want to point out $1.6 million. That's the amount of grant awards that we received this particular year. Over 75 grant opportunities that were researched and applied for that resulted in $1.6 million in offsetting funds for this town to be able to get projects done, to be able to achieve initiatives, and to be able to provide services for this community. So let's talk a little bit about our values in action. So first I want to start with dedication. And the first person I want to call out is Marilyn Borash. Marilyn is our payroll administrator, a payroll administrator that has processed 235 straight payrolls for this organization. That's almost 10 years worth of pay that each of these employees has received because Marilyn shows up and does her job to the best of her ability every single payroll period. Also want to point out Karen Bass and her work with the hub certification for the town. Karen, in our purchasing and contracts position, is constantly in the process of kind of reviewing best practices for purchasing. And one of those areas that we really strive to focus on this year is making sure that the town participates and advertises to historically underutilized businesses, hub businesses. And the best way for us to be able to do that is to send that information out to both the state and other areas when we're going through a bid process in order to make sure that those businesses not only know about what it is that the town is doing, what type of projects they're doing, but also give them the opportunity to be able to participate in being awarded any of those contracts. So Karen did a fine job and spent a lot of time and effort into ensuring that all of our programs that meet this requirement in order to be able to be advertised for hub businesses is done for the year. Also want to talk about integrity a little bit. Our finance staff has completed 150 random audits during this fiscal year, invested more than 350 hours of their time in order to ensure that everyone in the town, that our financial operations are being followed by all of our departments. And part of the way that we try and make sure to do that is through these random audits, or are through these random audits. We're also able to take that opportunity. It's not just a hammer that we throw down on other departments. It's not a gotcha moment. It's not meant to be punitive. It's meant to be helpful. It's meant to show what our best practices are, and if there's a situation where something isn't being followed, we figure out where we can correct the action. We work with departments in order to ensure that they are able to do that without just coming down hard on them. So I really want to, call out our department for that fine work that they've been able to do this particular year in ensuring that, these audits are not just successful, but these audits are able to kind of show where our weaknesses are so that we can correct those weaknesses in the future. Also want to talk about courtesy a little bit. I know Dawn isn't here with us tonight, but I do want to call out the fine work that she did with the Parks and Rec department this particular fiscal year. As you all know, they underwent a reorganization of the department, and part of Dawn's responsibilities and part of just the nature of who she is as a person was to go and to help them reorganize their financial operations, not just their staff operations. So Dawn was really, really instrumental in making sure that their new staff was able to be trained and their financial operations were able to be successful and continuous in the midst of that transition for that department. And lastly, I want to talk about innovation a little bit and call out April, our financial systems manager, someone who has really worked and strived a lot this year at maintaining a level of interconnectivity with our Munis financial system and our InterGov development revenue collection system. most of that will take place through the integration of Tyler Payments, which is what she's really been striving to work on this year. And the goal is to be able to utilize that particular system to better collaborate with the other two systems. It's really meant to strive in order to make sure that we as a department and the rest of the organization can collect our revenue as efficiently as possible. So I would like to move to a Did You Know section, tell you a little bit about our department. I'll give you all an opportunity to guess as I read it out, but ultimately, I'll be sure to let you know who they are. So I want to start with an individual who spent 15 years working in theater, not just backstage, but also on stage at times. Does anybody want to guess who that individual might be? No? Well, that is Miss Marilyn Borash. Marilyn spent quite some time. Oh, yeah, we got some folks that did not know that. Yep, Marilyn spent some time in the theater, not just backstage, but also on stage. Next, I want to point out a person who in 2011 ran a Disney half marathon. Anybody know who that might be? I'll say it wasn't me. I'll tell you that it is. Yeah, I'm in the mix too. That was Miss Karen Bass. Karen ran a marathon, a Disney half marathon in 2011. We'll work on that for next time. All right. Next, we also have someone in our group who is not just a crew chief, but also a backup driver for a fun Ford racing circuit. Anybody have a guess? It is not. It's actually not. It's Miss Casey Langley. Casey and her family, they are avid racers. Yeah, I'm not. Everyone can tell you I'm very, very slow in a car. Yeah, exactly. Slow and deliberate. So next, this person received the 40 Under 40 award in 2019 for East Carolina University. Anybody have an idea who that might be? That was, yes, this is me. Unfortunately, I'm no longer eligible for this award. My body is feeling it too. So next, we have a person who is originally from Maine and is a really, really, really big New England sports fan. Anybody have an idea? We only have a couple of people left. So this would be April Dare, our financial systems manager. A huge, huge New England sports fan. And last but not least, we do have an avid bike rider, a mountain bike rider at that, someone who has competed in a 24-hour mountain bike race in the past. That would be Don Rab. Something also, that was not me at all. So, I do want to thank you all for taking the opportunity to hear and learn a little bit more about both departments. I want to thank our senior leadership for giving us the opportunity to be in front of you all and giving us the opportunity for me to be able to lead both of these departments and really get a chance to see what teamwork and collaboration looks like in action, which is something that I can say for all of our staff between these two departments. And with that, we do have a short video for you all. Don't worry, I wasn't going to let you go without seeing a little bit about us. Hold on a second, Bianca. I do want to point out as well that we are a department that really, really, really focuses on doing a high level of work for this organization. And that requires a lot of hard work, and it requires a lot of stressful situations for these for staff in both departments. And I do want to point out that sometimes we want to have fun as well. And so we did make a video that's a parody of a famous movie in the past. And I wanted the opportunity for everybody to really have some fun with it. and I think they did that. So with that being said, I hope you all enjoy it. We'll play the video, and then I'll be here to answer any questions that you all might have.
All right, listen up. Here are your names: the analyst, the purchaser, and the systems girl.
What kind of name is the systems girl?
Just do the job.
Who really cares what your name is?
Easy for you to say. You're the analyst. That's a cool sounding name. I like something like Miss Fixer.
No one is Miss Fixer. You're all fixers. Let's just get to work.
I need $120,000.
Did you budget for it?
I was hoping you would help me with that.
What can you cut?
Nothing. So I need help. I mean, can we take it from another department?
No.
Fire and PD, they got lots of money.
No.
I ain't just come here to play with Excel spreadsheets.
This budget better be clean. We only deal in round numbers.
I'm looking for compliance, and if they can't fall in line,
It's all about systems, people. Without systems and strategy, this whole town would be lost.
This project is close to being over budget. Something's got to give, if you know what I mean.
Well, we can't just cut copy paper. They're going to figure something out.
get ready to defend the bottom line.
You want to get paid, you got to do the job. You want to get paid, you got to turn in the timesheets. Work with me, people.
Hey, did you include the MSD in the fund balance number?
No, I thought she did.
I thought you did.
No, you did.
I got my number from you.
Oh, I got my number from her.
I thought I got my number from you.
We're supposed to be professionals. Let's calculate.
16,577,124.
Are you ready to reconcile?
All right, thank you all. Anybody have any questions? That's what we were going for. So as I stated, we do have a very stressful job at times, and sometimes we do also like to have fun, and sometimes we do try and do some team building activities, and that's where Jeannie is very good at planning some activities for us at times. So this was a little team building activity that both departments did in collaboration. We actually went to do painting. What was the name of it? Do you remember? The Mad Splatter, yeah. So we as a group did some painting, and we have some folks that hung their artwork on their walls in their offices. So I can safely say I was not the best. We have more talented artists than I am, but we had a lot of fun. We had a lot of fun and got a chance to know each other a little bit better and interact with each other. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So a little bit like that. We do try and maintain at least some level of collaboration and communication with the project managers and the departments responsible for getting projects done. We allocate funding in the beginning, and we kind of cash flow it as the project is going on. So we'll send funds over to whatever fund we're kind of using as a capital project fund, and that's where they're paying for these projects as it's kind of going on. There are some milestones that typically happen in a construction contract that'll be the point at which we'll typically get some invoices in. And our engineering staff in particular is really good at kind of, working with, outside project managers as well as construction firms and NCDOT if it's kind of a collaboration with another agency partnering with us in order to maintain and get a good sense of whether or not the work is completed, whether or not it's comprehensive based on the milestones that have been set forth. And that's kind of when we look to pay from that point. However, one of the things that I am tasking our new capital projects budget analyst, which is Don, is that I want to see a lot more collaboration from beginning to end with departments. So that initial conversation from the time we know that we're going to fund a project, how are we setting it up? What are the benchmarks that we need to look at internally? How do we know that we're being successful with the project? Both from a financial standpoint in terms of the performance of it, maintaining, a level of, or making sure that it's under budget, but also how do we know that it's meeting the needs of what the initial scope was going to be, whether or not, there's any other additional work that needs to be done in collaboration with that. So we, from a finance perspective, we're looking to connect all the dots as best we can, not just rely on other departments to work on their individual processes within a project. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So this isn't just in the general fund. This is the general fund. These are our capital project funds. These are all the expenses that we have throughout the year. So not just what we pay individuals, not just the $50 million that you see in the general fund. This is also, us purchasing vehicles, purchasing trucks, working on sidewalk improvements, working on building reconstruction, putting solar panels on buildings, all those things that we do from an operation of this town's perspective that happens not just in the general fund, but also in all of our capital project funds as well. I would say the spending that we had for this particular year is about $190 million. Mm-hmm. So that was actually David Hacker. That was our new HR director that was in the truck. Yeah. Yeah. That's we're maintaining a hard line with them. We're going to maintain a hard line. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. So one of the major, or I would say one of the other initiatives that not only Don and I, in the budget office would work on, but as well as the rest of our finance office, is the utilization of Power BI in order to help develop those types of dashboards that you're describing, working on some data visualization in order to get a better, data visualization so that we can get a better, more comprehensive look at our finances that the rest of the public will probably understand a little bit better. You know, it's one thing to see a bunch of 9 and 10 figure numbers on a sheet of paper in a spreadsheet, but it's different when you see it in graphic form. You know, when you see a line graph that shows things going up or shows things going down. One of the comments during the budget process that Councilmember Scroggins Johnson said to me was, I don't know if you remember this. You said, "This is the money slide," and it was a slide that we worked to develop that really, I think, demonstrated that level of data visualization that we want to get to. And so, to answer your question, Councilmember Rao, utilizing Power BI, I think, will help build those types of dashboards that you're looking at, trying to gather that information. And so that's one of the things that we'll definitely strive for this year in order to help put those together, get some initial kind of groundwork done in order to be able to work and, get something in front of you that then we can take and hone in order to get the information exactly the way that you kind of need to see, or exactly what you want to get out of those types of dashboards. Thank you. Yeah. So, so some of it is based on, you know, what we've stated in our policies and, you know, ensuring that we have a mechanism to see whether or not we as an organization are following our policies. So it's not necessarily something that, you know, Cherry Beckert or any other external auditor says you need to provide, you know, show us an example of 100 audits that you've done or anything like that. It's an internal process and something that we look to do in order to maintain that high level of service that not just that we're providing, but also that other departments can say the same thing because they're following the best practices and in ensuring that they're, you know, maintaining the policies and procedures of the town as well. So I think that answers your question, you know, maybe a little bit, but. Right, and there is something to be said about the fact that a policy is only as good as whether or not people will actually follow it. And so if we just put policies into place or update our policies and never really check to see whether or not anybody's following them or whether or not we're following them ourselves, then what good are they? And so that is something that the town manager has really stressed to make sure that you know, we're not just not just following those procedures, but also doing that continuous check-ins with departments, seeing, you know, what they need in order to be successful, as well as ensuring that they're continuing to do that. So, you know, it's definitely, it takes work, as you know, as you see on the slide, about 350 hours a year. However, it's that work that continues us moving forward as an organization. And so, you know, we don't hear complaints about it. We don't hear, you know, a lot of pushback. Departments understand why we're coming. They know that this is not meant to be, you know, some sort of punitive action that's going to take place because we go through that process. It really is meant to ensure that we are providing the highest level of service for this organization, this town, and this community. I appreciate that. Thank you. Thank you all.
Road, Morrisville, and I'm joined by three other people that live in Morrisville. They are scouts that are working on their citizenship in the community merit badge. We have Emilio Mitchell, we have Vincent Flynn, and we have Steve Martinez-Wu. And wanted to give a big thank you to Mayor TJ. The mayor met with the scouts before the meeting, and we were able to mark off some important requirements for their merit badge. And I wanted to give an opportunity for each of these guys, once they finish their citizenship in the community merit badge, what is your next dream merit badge to work on and why?
My dream merit badge for the next Good evening, Council. Thank you again for an opportunity to revisit our RMS system request. So for transparency's sake, we worked on this project with Holly Springs, Cary, as well as a few other local agencies with researching RMS systems. And since we've sent out for bid and received one bid back, I'll share a little bit more about that later in the presentation. So just some of our goals, just want an overview. I know we've been through this once. Just a brief overview of the system, some of the influence and key factors, some of our lessons learned as being a joint user, some options, next steps, and some discussions for us. Just a brief overview of the RMS system. This system really is designed to streamline our record keeping. It helps enhance our investigative services, allows us to analyze our data efficiently, our mapping systems efficiently. Obviously, it keeps us in legal compliance, and also, allows us to have more accountability and transparency, which is really important to our agency, and we lean on that heavily with our community. Just a brief history on our RMS systems. Prior to 2012, we were a standalone user. In 2012, we joined with Wake County, and as a joint user. In 2018, we began partnering with Cary as a joint user, and currently we're evaluating the options of continuing as a joint user or a standalone option. So just wanted to remind you that the RMS, this project, along with the CAM model, they're completely different. CAM is specific to our dispatch, while our RMS is specific to our records management. And this is just a snapshot of some of our partners that neighbor us and their RMS systems. Cary, Apex, and Holly Springs are all standalone, while we remain a joint user currently. So in May, we met with Cary, and they informed us that they were in transition of a new RMS system and elected to contract with Axon. They are currently with Central Square, where we're a joint user with them with Central Square. As they continue through this new transition of RMS systems, they'll be sunsetting Central Square roughly 6 months or so after they go live with Axon. And that means we will not be able to stay with Central Square. So we have to decide if we're going to remain as a joint user with Cary on Axon, or if we're going to be a standalone. So once we met with Cary, we began evaluating RMS systems, speaking with some of our neighboring agencies who have just went through the exact same process recently. We also had other projects that coincided with RMS, such as our body-worn camera, in-car camera project, as we're upgrading both of those. And while we're in this system, we learned that Axon, who we are upgrading to with our our camera system and we utilize with our taser systems. They'll no longer be serving agencies with less than 100 users. So it just puts us at a little bit of a disadvantage as far as timeliness. However, if we were to move on with them as a standalone, they will hold to their quote for us through December 31st. Anything after that, they won't quote us anymore. Last time we met, I shared some of our challenges that we've had as joint users, just a lot of inefficiencies. Not having the span of control has caused us a lot of additional time, not just for us, but other departments such as our IT department, a lot of extra work. It has really limited the reports that we run, and just it hasn't worked well with our smart data innovations. Just some pros and cons as a joint user I shared with you last time. Obviously, as a joint user, some of the initial fees will be lower. The administrative responsibilities would be overseen by Carrie. The vendor management would be overseen by Carrie. Some of the cons of being a joint user, obviously, is over the last several years of being a joint user, there's a lot of connectivity challenges, a lot of delays, and when we have IT challenges, IT has to work through Carrie's IT, which slows down the process of fixing any IT-related issues that we may have. There's been times where there's been some unexpected changes in coding, which doesn't necessarily mean we lose data, but we can't find it. Again, we've had some connectivity issues. A lot of times those issues result in some of our other forward-facing platforms render unavailable, like LexisNexis. The standalone option, just the ability for us to customize, a lot of our forms and reporting to the needs of our community. It allows our IT department to support us instead of having to go through another IT department just to make contact with the vendor. We're able to have direct access to all of our data, which we haven't had before. Some of the cons, obviously the price would be higher initially, and there's a 18 to 24 month implementation period. This is where I showed you just some of the research that we did working with Carrie and Holly Springs on some of the RMS systems. And as we continued to have a lot of the functionality of Axon really started to float to the top for us, we found that it really aligned with the ICP administrative review. One thing Axon impressed us on is they support their systems longer. We've been put in situations with some of our products before where we wanted to upgrade our systems and they no longer even support that. So that forces you to buy all new stuff, and Axon doesn't participate in that. Axon allows us to connect with our district attorney's office to submit evidence through the Axon portal. It fully integrates with the body-worn camera, in-car cameras, and our taser systems. The analytics are improved, enhances our online reporting, so it allows us to a forward-facing portal for our community members to file reports online, the ones that we suggest that they can. This, in turn, allows us to free up staff and not have to respond to certain calls. There's modules that allows us to enhance our accreditation and allows us to customize reports. This is where we shared the implementation. It just really best supports our town, the needs of our town. Our police department aligns with our other projects, such as our body-worn camera and in-car camera projects. It allows us to work with our IT department to support future smart data opportunities and really improve operational efficiencies. So this is where I work to clean this slide up a little. And this will really marry up to the spreadsheet that you were also afforded prior to the meeting. So the standalone user is almost 1.1 million. In that price, the included implementation cost are the Axon records, Axon standards, and the doors, which is the online reporting, the data conversion, and the integrations and storage. What's not included in that is the LexisNexis and the 6-month overlap of the sunsetting period of Central Square. Joint user, and the LexisNexis, just so, as a reminder, that's actually already in our current budget. As a joint user, the implementation cost is just over $500,000. What's included in that cost is the Axon records, the Axon standards, and the doors, and the data conversion. The additional cost there, again, is the LexisNexis, the Central Square sunsetting period, and also the shared storage. So as a joint user, we will have to pay carry for our storage. Currently, our licensing with Central Square is about $75,000 annually, and another $8,100 for other platforms such as our Pro Standards, our Training Tracker, and FTO, which we would not need with Axon, because Axon has that built in. So at the work session, there was the question of how can we see some of these savings? That was also on the spreadsheet for you to, and I think that Josh actually did a really good job of breaking that out. But this slide kind of puts that all into perspective. As to how many hours our staff is working currently with a lot of these different platforms and the work that's going into it versus with Axon, it would allow us to reduce those hours from hours to even minutes. would you guys like me to go through these individually, or okay? So the standalone option, broken into 5 years. Again, I think the only difference here, what you would see is this is broken out, which it adds in the shared cost of the $40,000, which on the earlier slide, this actually indicates the cost of that shared cost. And the joint as well. The additional charges on the joint user, that was not on the earlier slide, is the $40,000 for the transition cost, as well as the shared storage, which we estimated at $10,000 annually. There is a little bit of a difference between LexisNexis as a joint user, where we are now is at what we currently budget $18,000, and in the slide prior is only $9,500, because there's a portion of the LexisNexis that we would not need anymore, so it actually would cut it in half as a standalone. And again, we had reached out, did a request for proposals. We received one proposal back, which was from Axon, which completely aligns with the information that you all were provided. And we intend to provide you all with a resolution to award and capital projects ordinance approval for the next meeting. Put together our implementation team, reach out to our stakeholders, and start moving forward with upon approval with the project. Do you guys have any questions? So that's actually on, let me roll up. That's actually on the spreadsheet as well. And yeah, we only have it to year 5 on the spreadsheet. It's broken out to year 6. Can we see that spreadsheet? Oh, right. Right. After year 5. Well, they're restricted, so there may be parameters that we can't. Now, obviously, working with Carrie, we can get a lot of the information that we need, but it's not exactly what we need. And this project is designed to really cater to our town and our needs and get the data that we need. trying to think back to our conversation. Can you? Okay. Now I get it. Right. And so this is Josh Allman for the record. Go ahead, Josh.
Yeah, so what we were talking about with that is, back when we were standalone before, we had a domestic violence crime, which was an assault that took place, and a domestic violence, which we labeled as a no crime, which was just an argument, kind of a disagreement. And, we would track those in terms of looking at the number of domestic violence no crimes that we had versus the domestic violence crimes. And then we could also cross-reference, were there any patterns of the domestic violence no crimes that were then leading to where crimes were started to be committed. When we moved to Cary, we lost that ability because Cary designates their domestic violence no crimes as a cause for service. So that then is then lumped in with all of the other calls for service, such as a barking dog complaint or a lost wallet or something like that. So we lost the ability to actually hone in our analytics on, the different types of domestic violences. And that's one of the things we hope to gain back by a standalone system, especially that we have the new domestic violence investigator position that was awarded to us by a grant. Being able to fully encapsulate the different types of scenarios that lead up to a crime committing and being able to prevent those crimes from ever starting.
Yes, ma'am. That meeting was to let us know that they have they're moving to Axon, and they needed to know what we were going to do. Okay. That was the very first conversation I had ever had about RMS. And usually we participated before. They're currently doing a new CAD now. We're participating in that process. So it seemed like it was a one-off, but that was the first time I'd had a conversation about that. Yeah. So actually, they just signed a contract with September. Yeah.
About 2 years of research.
I don't know. Do you know?
I can't remember off the top of my head which system they were using before. So that is all the professional services where they're actually building the custom system for us. In the shared option, Carrie is absorbing a lot of that custom building because it's being built custom for Carrie. And we're just having to pay the connectivity fees of connecting to these different softwares in those professional services. So for Morrisville, it's them actually building the system out for Morrisville, converting all of our data, making sure everything is customized, and all of our connections to the different state agencies and stuff are connected like they're supposed to be. Yes, ma'am. So the $75,000 in year one technical account manager, that is an on-site kind of representative who comes in whenever we're actually putting the system into place that first year and making sure that everything is running smoothly and all of our stuff is, they work closely with us to make sure everything is done correctly in that first year. And that's why after that first year, then the standard, IT technical stuff takes over, which is included in the price. The reason the professional services is spread out over the 5 years was originally we had it all being paid at year one, and then because it was the like $600 and something thousand, and then somebody brought up that they would like to see that kind of spread out, and Axon was able to spread that payment out even though all the services are concluded in year one of actually building the system. No, ma'am, they will not be. Once the system's built, it's good. So with Axon, there are no versions. Everything that they build future-wise, Morrisville will automatically gain at no additional cost. The only additional cost that Morrisville would gain in the future is if they develop a new system and they put it in and we have that kind of system in another platform and we choose to then migrate our data into the new system. We can start using the new system free of charge. We would just have to pay for if we chose to migrate any data.
Do you have that? I don't know that information because it wasn't really provided to us of why they chose Axon. They shared with us the information that they learned in the research, just like Holly Springs did. But as far as changing RMS systems, that part we weren't involved in. So
We don't know why Gary needed this new system at all.
No.
It got me curious when I saw the slide about Holly Springs system. They evaluated it, and one of them was Central Square area, and weren't really using that.
Right.
All right. So then my other question has to do with how the savings was calculated. So the first four lines of savings, I heard you mention time. So were those savings calculated based on number of hours you thought would be reduced in doing the activities, these tasks?
Right, Josh.
Yes, ma'am. So what we did was, let's say for the direct link to the DA's office, what I did was we pulled a 3-year average of, how many requests we get per year in discovery requests. And then I pulled the hourly rate for the 2 people that do that, and I averaged their hourly rate. And then I calculated that by the number of hours it takes per DA request currently to submit that to the DA's office. Then once I had all that together, I was able to get a yearly cost savings based on the 3-year average. And I did that with the other things. I took the salaries of the people that were involved in those types of activities, how long it takes per activity, and then how much we could save, and then computed it that way. Yes, ma'am. That was based on a 3-year average historical data. Yes, ma'am. So the LexisNexis, if we do standalone, their built-in Power BI reports would alleviate the need for certain things in LexisNexis that we're currently paid for. So at that point, all we would need is the investigative tools, not the public forward-facing tools, because the Power BI stuff is built in directly into Axon. Yes, ma'am.
And then what about these last 2 lines? How are they saving?
So that's the current RMS system. That's how much we're currently paying and are currently approved in the budget for. And the same thing with our frontline softwares. That's how much we're currently paying, and we would not have those 2 payments anymore. That would all roll into Axon, so it would save us money.
That's why we wanted to indicate it as direct and indirect cost savings, so that we can show what we already have budgeted. And I certainly understand what you're saying about savings, but we just wanted to make sure that we were sharing all the information of the savings as far as staff, as well as what we already have budgeted. It's still 1.1 million. Right.
Right? That number is on the spreadsheet. 282,000 supposedly requested next year, not this 178.
ma'am. So we've received all of them back. It was one. Axon was the only one that submitted an RFP, and it was in line with everything that was shared prior to the meeting. All right, perfect. Thank you. I appreciate your time.
Everyone for all the great events, and the Veterans Day event was awesome, and I had an opportunity to go to a few around the county. Nightdale was an amazing Veterans Memorial, so I really would like our committee and our staff to look at that. It was just a really, really nice memorial, and the Cary one was one of the best speakers I've ever heard, so I want to send the council clips of his video, Colonel Robert Bortorf from Fort Liberty. This is my last. I just want the mayor and the council and the public, the staff to know that this is my last council meeting of the year. My wife and I are going to Nairobi to visit our daughter, who's working now for Reuters, Sonia, as a journalist. And this is finishing my 13th year on the council, and I just wanted to just reserve my moments for just a minute to just reflect on the progress we made. This will be my last comments of the year. It's been a year of growth, innovation, and resilience, and I am very proud of the work of the council and what we have done to really distance ourselves as the best place to live, work, and play and thrive in the United States. It wouldn't be possible without our residents, the business owners, and community leaders who continue to engage actively in the future of our town. From town hall meetings to community events, it's your voices and ideas that shape our decisions every day. And we really are a welcoming and inclusive, forward-thinking community, and it's for all of us. So the best Christmas gift I can give you is I won't be here for the last meeting of the year, so there will be no comments from me. But I did want to just highlight just a couple of things that I think we should be proud of. The Economic Development Director position, which we approved, the AAA credit ratings for our bond sale, the IT department receiving the CIO 100 award, ISO certification for our fire department, our police getting accreditation, completing the Morrisville Carpenter Road project with the traffic light installation, moving forward with the downtown plans, the basketball court at Shallow Park, hosting Sri Lankan national cricket and Major League Cricket, and continuing to demonstrate our commitment to sustainability and parks and greenways. And finally, bringing the Gandhi statue to Morrisville, to Raleigh. So I didn't want to be over my time, but I just wanted to say that I'm so grateful to be on such a great team. I often don't get to thank each of you for how proud I am of the work that we do. And I am very proud of each and every one of you, and I'm very, very proud of our staff. In closing, what I'll say is that, we just celebrated the final thing I'll say is that we just celebrated Diwali and Veterans Day, and I think the most important light that President Biden reminded people at the White House in his last Diwali event is that the light that shines so brightly is when immigrants come from all over the world to make our nation better, and Morrisville is a perfect example of that. You don't have to look very far to see how inclusive and how welcoming we are, and so we are so fortunate that we can live in a town where we have that. So congratulations to Governor-elect Stein and all the people who won the election, and looking forward to seeing you all in the new year, 2025. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councilmember Scroggins-Johnson, followed by Mayor Pro Tem Garamella, please.
Thank you, Steve, and I wish you the safest of travels. And we all expect to see some pictures, so that'll be nice. I would like to say that some of the recent town events, thank the staff for a successful Boo Bash. That was a reformat of our haunted trail from before, and I think there was well over 1,000 people there. It was very, very well attended. There was people everywhere and lots of happy faces. So definitely a big success. And my favorite was the police officers taking a picture with every small child that was dressed as a police officer. I think that was a very fun connection for both of the staff as well as the young people. Also, the Veterans Day event was very nice this past weekend, and I know that we had a day to observe yesterday, but I'm looking forward to November and the activities, and also recognizing other causes like the Pancreatic Cancer Awareness Week. Yes. And I just hope everyone has a safe month this month. Thank you.
Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem Garamella, followed by Councilmember Johnson, please.
I think Steve has a clarification.
Yeah, I'm so sorry. I got up at 4:30 this morning, so I had the wrong date, my thing. So this is not my last council meeting. It's on the 27th. So I really apologize. It's very embarrassing that my Mayor Pro Tem, who's one of my close friends, had to remind me. But the good news is there will be no comments from me on the 26th meeting. And I really feel stupid, but we all make mistakes. But I will be leaving on the 27th, so I have my dates messed up. And but I really meant what I said. We should really be proud of everything we've done. Thanks for the catch. So I will be here on the 26th, and I'm blushing.
Thank you for the clarification. Mayor Pro Tem Garamella, followed by Councilmember Johnson, please.
Yeah, I wanted to stop Steve, but I said let him complete. I and Brandon were looking eye to eye. So. But I think that but this is fun. Like things do happen. For me, I think again, I like the Veterans Memorial. I think the steps are going in the right direction. I hope they're able to raise their funds and go for the next step. I think there's more synergy than I have seen over the years and involvement. That is good. And the other thing I wanted to just say, which was a pleasant surprise to me, that I am on the Governor-elect Stein transition team. So my job among 3 or 4 people is to pick the DIT secretary and the deputy secretary. So starting from tomorrow, there'll be a lot of interviews for the next 2 weeks, and it's an honor. And I just wanted to share that. And if anyone who has interest can go to stein2024transition.org and submit your resumes, and they're openly accepting, and then they get trickled down to us.
Congratulations. Councilmember Johnson, followed by myself.
So, yeah, congratulations. That is a big deal. So, congratulations to Mayor Pro Tem Garamella. I don't know that anybody has ever served on the transition team from the town of Morrisville before. I don't recall that at all. So, thank you.
I did. The first Cooper term.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Well, then, congratulations. You do a little late, but okay.
I'm not as good as these people.
So anyhow, good luck with that too. So the only comment I have is that I'm wearing my purple. It's November. November is Pancreatic Cancer Awareness Month. We have, obviously, I've been affected by pancreatic cancer. We have staff affected, and unfortunately, we have many, many residents that have been affected by pancreatic cancer. And those of us that volunteer in this world always say, if you don't know someone today in your world affected by pancreatic cancer, you will in your lifetime. Unfortunately, it is surpassed breast cancer as the 3rd leading cause of cancer deaths in the United States. So we have a really active and wonderful group of volunteers here in the Triangle that I coordinate that are raising funds and raising awareness for pancreatic cancer. So for those of you that are going to be at the hockey game The Carolina Hurricanes hockey game this Sunday, November 17th, is Hockey Fights Cancer Night. And so I will be out on the concourse. We'll have a table out there. Please come by. And I don't know where we're going to be yet, but we'll be out on the concourse with several other cancer groups. And please come by and say hello. And then November 21st is World Pancreatic Cancer Day, where across the world, organizations dedicated to changing the course of this disease will be recognizing the day and be wearing purple and sharing statistics and information about pancreatic cancer. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll give my comments followed by Councilmember Body. I just want to thank staff and the Morrisville Veterans Foundation for a really nice event on Saturday. Very well attended, and we want to just keep that memorial moving forward, and I'm looking forward to helping to do that. Councilmember Rabati.
I'd just like to extend my congratulations to Mayor Pro Tem Garamella. This is indeed a huge accomplishment. Congratulations.
And Councilmember Fender, please.
I think everything's been said. I don't have any comments.
Then I'll pass it to Town Manager Zudema in case there's anything from staff.
I'm just going to pass it to Erin. She'll come up to the microphone really quick. I think you're aware of what's going on with your cups in front of you, but I think it's worth sharing with the public what we're doing in that regard for sustainability. So she has coordinated that effort with new cups, and I'll let her explain it.
Yes, thank you, Town Manager Zudema, and thank you, Mayor and Council members. So you may or may not recall in your latest news and notes that was issued to you on October 28th, we did put a small article in there that, as in alignment with the town's sustainability master plan, staff has also developed and implemented a sustainable purchasing policy. So that policy provides guidance for really all areas of staff purchasing. So it can be something as simple as pens and paper, but it also applies to single-use plastics. So we are doing our part to avoid continued purchase of single-use water bottles. So in support of this policy and to further demonstrate our commitment and leaning to you to help us model the way, we have purchased reusable cups for you. Those will stay here at your places in council chambers. They've been sanitized for your use. Staff will collect those following each meeting, sanitize them, and have them ready for your use prior to the next meeting. We have also purchased, I believe, a dozen reusable mugs for use here either in council chambers or in our conference room for staff when they have meetings with outside groups or external parties for the very same reasons. So we won't have reusable, or I apologize, single-use plastic bottles on hand. We do have the refillable filter water stations here in the hallway. We do have 2 of those. So again, just doing our part to help maintain those sustainability efforts. Apologies recognized. Very likely we should have sent a reminder ahead of this evening's message, but happy to answer any questions.
I think no questions, but a thank you. Appreciate it. So, is there anything else, sir?
No, other than if you're amenable, would ask for perhaps a 15-minute break. IT staff would like to double check what we have going on with audio recording, just to give them an extra minute or 2 for that, please.
Okay. Duncan McCain to help us facilitate this next session.
Yes, thank you for that introduction, Mayor. Good evening. Today I'll be presenting the review and proposed updates to the appointed public bodies policy, focusing on recent organizational changes and the necessary improvements to align our practices with the current needs of our advisory committees and, of course, yourself, Council. The purpose of this review is to ensure our policies are clear and updated. This includes adapting to our terminology, roles, and processes. Our goal is to identify where the policy may need adjustments to better meet our operational needs, enhance clarity, and ensure compliance with applicable regulations. This review will help us address any questions staff liaisons, and supporting staff raised, update outdated terms, and ensure staff and council have a shared understanding of responsibilities outlined within this policy. So I received, as I mentioned before, guidance from staff liaisons by asking for their collaboration, as they have been able to identify areas of clarification needed through their own personal experiences with the advisory committees. So again, we're going to highlight suggested revisions. We're documenting the transition of responsibilities from the town clerk to the deputy town clerk regarding the oversight of the advisory committees. We also suggest removing references to dissolved committees, specifically detailing any correlation to MPAC. Lastly, we need to clarify terms to align with those currently used within the organization. Just to give you an example, using the leadership team member instead of department heads. So as stated, most of these within the following sections require more clarification, definition, or rewording. While these sections will be further refined and clarified in the upcoming weeks through December 10th, Council's input will be invaluable in shaping any final policy revisions. So Section 5 of the policy specifically touches on meeting conduct, and it addresses, again, operational expectations for advisory committees. These key areas include the need for greater transparency and agenda documentation and enhanced guidance for staff liaisons, which will be included in the training that we are having on December 16th. So currently, advisory committee agendas lack supporting documents for items under discussions, and meetings tend to be ran by the staff liaison rather than the chair and the vice chair. To address this, the policy recommends training for staff liaisons again, along with the training for chairs and vice chairs on how to effectively run a meeting and when to seek support from the staff liaisons and staff support. Additionally, this section raises a question about reappointment eligibility for members who have previously had their terms terminated. Clarifying this would establish consistency in reapplication processes and expectations for committee membership standards. So the clerk's office suggests meeting conduct in relation to quorum standards needing more definition as well. For example, minutes should still be recorded when a meeting fails to meet quorum. Up until this point, those minutes have not stated such. So the minutes should state no quorum, no meeting being held. This step will prevent staff and the public from questioning why a meeting was not held as scheduled, instead of inquiring about it to other staff. The published agendas. Yes, of course.
Quick question on subsection 3 here. If a quorum is not met, it will not count as a absence for those members not in attendance. So why wouldn't it, since we're going to know in the new minutes who was in attendance,
yes,
I can understand it not counting as
So by law, I did ask that same question just to clarify, but by law, if a meeting does not hold quorum, you can't count it as an absence. And so that is the reason why, if that helps some understanding there. Yeah.
Perhaps the wording could be like, none of the advisory committee members are counted as an absence instead of just the ones that are there.
Because there were a lot of, it's like a triple negative in there.
Yes, yes.
So, and no absences will be counted for committee members. That would kind of
Right.
include those not there as well.
Yes, and just to share, we also don't, staff liaisons don't send out a notification letter for absence or warning letter. Like I said, it just doesn't count since you did not you, but, the staff liaisons and the advisory committees did not reach a quorum that night.
So, yeah, we need to talk about this.
Yes.
Is now the time to do that?
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, I'm after you then.
I'm not sure how to get around the law, but if people are missing the meeting and causing us to not make quorum,
Yes.
that's the reason we have, I think, a policy to discourage that type of behavior. So
Yes.
I'm not sure if we call it something different. If you miss a scheduled meeting,
There needs
you
to be
have
some
something.
penalty.
You don't have to call it an absence. You just have to call it something, so that we
Yes.
can make sure that the people who are committing to coming and being part of a committee fulfill that. Otherwise, we have the opportunity to ask them to step away.
Right.
So
And
I don't know if staff has a suggestion about a way to do that.
So I think that this kind of bleeds into some of the other slides, as specifically some issues that we've had with attendance and quorum in relation to each other. I think staff's suggestions would be that we intend to keep the quorum and the rules for quorum by law. This isn't something that I believe that we can actually change, since it is a North Carolina statute. So unfortunately, I don't have another option there for you.
No, we need to, I don't like this either. I think we need to come up with some way of at least recording it for our own benefit then.
Yes.
If there's some state law that we can't violate, okay, that's one thing. But I would like to know for our benefit, because I'm with you, Ann, if you're the reason that we're not having quorum all the time, we need to know that so we can.
Yes.
Well, the state law says that we can't be counted as absent for purposes of asking somebody to step away from the committee, but why couldn't we just take a note of how many?
We can use it for reappointment.
Right.
Yes.
That's
And-
100%.
And more than that, I think if, like, council, I have it. Council, we know, like, we tell, prior, like, Steve said he won't be coming. This is his last meeting. Right?
Yes.
So, but it would be important. It would be a little work on your side, but 2 or 3 days before, send an email, hey, who all are coming, who are not coming, so that at least you do not want a situation not having a quorum.
Yes.
Because it is important, just an email or like just a straw poll, are you coming for it or not? That way, at least you don't want to come and it is disrespectful for the people who are already sitting there, and they have their own engagement and they are taking the time to come, and you can't do anything and you're walking away with no quorum. That's not acceptable.
So I will say that staff liaisons currently have that system in place, where they reach out, and myself included, have reached out to committee members to make sure that they plan to be in attendance, especially the newly appointed committee members. And so we have verbal confirmation, but I think the underlying issue is that even with that verbal confirmation, sometimes a committee will not meet quorum.
Are they using the MAFC?
They are not using MAFC.
No, because we give MAFC like
Free
a free membership if they're not showing you.
Yes, I'm not sure.
I see a few.
Yeah, I'm not sure. If they are or not.
I wonder if Frank has any suggestions.
The failure, the inability to count them is for a quorum doesn't mean you can't keep track of it internally and use it for your own purposes. I mean, that's not violating state law.
Yes.
Thank you. Sorry, Bianca's correct. She's correct in what she shared as far as our advisory committee liaisons do very regularly reach out ahead of meetings, be that a couple of days, however often, just to remind folks, hey, we've got a meeting coming up. If you're not going to be able to attend, please let us know. That is also in your policy, that if for any reason a member cannot attend, they are to provide a certain period of notice. I don't remember if it's 24 or 48 hours.
It is 24 hours.
Okay. Bianca's indicated it's 24 hours. So one of the things that I believe Bianca has received as feedback from the staff liaisons is some of that accountability that's in the policy for the appointed members is falling back to the staff liaison. So rather than the appointed members sharing are they or are they not going to be in attendance, the staff liaisons are doubling up their efforts to ensure, okay, who's going to be in attendance. And just one additional piece of clarity for the quorum and the absences, and we will confirm this as well, I believe it's that because they are an appointed public body, they are required to have a quorum to meet. Absent a quorum, there is no meeting. Therefore, we cannot count an absence for a meeting that did not hold. Agreed. We can certainly track who did or did not show, and we have been doing that, and that's how we also were able to prepare and bring some information to you all last year at retreat about some of the successes and challenges of some of our advisory committee members. I know that's something Bianca is going to be working on with our staff liaisons at the start of the new year, because she's correct. We are continuing to have some of those challenges, and very much to your point, there's not an easy way to have that accountability really where it needs to be to allow those committees to be successful and meet and do the work that you all would like to have them do.
So for future appointments, will you be able to share with us like their attendance record and whether they showed up and the meeting was not able to be held? I mean, whether they did not show up.
So this is leading into, I guess, manual labor again for the deputy town clerk, the clerk's office, and the staff liaisons. I can tell you the current practice is that using boards and commissions, obviously with Granicus, that system pulls out the data, but if we cannot mark the members as absent, it'll really just show that a quorum wasn't met, and that can be delivered to you when I'm sending, or the clerk's office is sending regular monthly minutes. And so I think that that's why there's a discrepancy there, because there is no kind of clarity or statement or document being shared with council as well. So up until, the appointments, that kind of tracking is regularly given to you on a monthly basis. Outside tracking would mean that, like I said, the staff liaisons in the clerk's office would manually track the attendance records.
I don't know if you answered the question or not.
If you, can you repeat the question?
Well, I'm wondering, like at the time of us voting for committee members,
yes.
I know you've given us in the past their attendance data.
Yes.
In this discussion, you mentioned you could record when people did not show up and the meeting was not held because they did not reach a quorum,
right?
Will you be able to share that data with us as well? Like, who did not show up that caused quorum not being met?
If that is the request of council, I believe that we can implement that. To further explain or go back to what I was saying earlier, is that the data that we currently have and the data that we can pull out of Granicus, peaks, and commissions does not give you that data, because you cannot mark a member as absent if you do not reach quorum. So that would be upon the staff liaisons to manually either handwrite or put it in their Excel sheets or forms what members have been, what members showed up and what members didn't to not be able to reach quorum. So you would receive two different data points.
Mm-hmm. Oh.
Nope,
Sorry.
that's all right. Go ahead, finish your thought. I've been sitting here patiently waiting. I think this is important enough that we all need that information. I think we have a responsibility to make sure that these advisory committees are functioning well and that our members are not frustrated. And I am getting feedback that they're frustrated about not having quorum. So I think it's important that we get that data, however we get it.
Okay.
And then I think we use it, like Vicki said, for reappointment purposes. There's no sense reappointing somebody who's frustrating a committee.
Yes.
And I think we need to know that. And I will also say, I think that's why these joint meetings with these committees are so important, because I think we, not only do we exchange information, but we also get to see, the dynamics of a committee. And last year, the education committee dynamics was very clear. So anyhow.
Thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Of course. I would appreciate that.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
I believe I was next, and then
Yes.
Councilmember Rabati.
Okay.
Yes, so I agree wholeheartedly that this information is important. I would support staff having to go that extra mile to track it separately in some way. If by law we can't say that someone missed a meeting, I'd say track scheduled meetings and whether or not they make it to a scheduled gathering. The meeting didn't happen, but the scheduled meeting was a thing that occurred.
Okay.
So track if they missed the scheduled meeting, so we can
Yes.
track the people who actually were at that. So it's not an absence for a meeting because the meeting didn't happen.
Right.
It's a fine point, but that gives us the data we need,
Okay.
or that we think would help us moving forward. And then we need to talk to Frank about whether or not we can dismiss someone from a committee based on that.
Understood.
Councilmember Rabati, then Councilmember Garamella, please.
Yes.
How many meetings don't have a quorum in a year? We have, 5 or 6 advisory committees.
Yes.
So how often does this really happen?
So that's going to depend on how many, specifically what advisory committee we're looking at. Most of them have different schedules. For example, if I was just throw out one here, it would be MESC. From my recollection, they did not meet quorum one time this year, but they also do not hold meetings in January and July. So keeping track of how many meetings are actually on the schedule, that is the role of the staff liaison. But you can see at least 3. Say if it's 3, I believe it's 10 meetings altogether, and you have 7 meetings that are being held. And we'll go on to this further on, but say if a newly appointed member missed 2 of those meetings, They also cannot be given a warning letter or dismissal letter until many more absences then after. So ideally what the policy is stating is that you can miss more than 50% of your meetings and still be a member of a committee, which is why we're bringing this policy to you today.
Staff this is by just asking overall, just ballpark, how many no quorums do we have in a year? Like, is it 30 or is it 5? You know?
Yes. So that would be some external tracking that the staff liaisons and myself in the clerk's department would have to do to be able to give you that number.
Okay, don't go to any trouble. I just thought we might know off the top of our heads. Okay.
Mayor Pro Tem Caramello, please.
No, go ahead.
More and more I'm thinking if a person misses 2 meetings, it's automatic dismissal or something, right? What's your rule?
So in a separate slide, we are actually going to propose 25% versus, I think the verbiage is 11 advisory committees who meet 11 times or more, or versus 11 times or less. They're allowed to miss 1/3 of their meeting, rounded up to the nearest number. But in some cases, again, depending on how many times advisory committees meet in a scheduled year, it means that if you have 11 or fewer meetings in a scheduled year, you can miss the same as 11 or more. And that's been the discrepancy overall.
Yeah, so where I'm going with this is, like, I think our HR sends emails of new employees and the people who are leaving. There are many people that I know who were appointed to the committee.
Yes.
Because of attendance, they were kicked out of the committee,
Right.
and we don't know about it till the next reappointment comes, and we don't know the reason they were kicked out or they didn't want to apply. It would be good going forward to basically any people that you are letting go based on the policy, at least email that list to us. It's public record, and at least we know, because I have seen some other people, hey, you're in that committee. Oh, no, I'm no longer. And later found out the attendance, she was not attending.
Yes.
And she got, so I think it is for us. And at the WakeMed board meeting, first they have a tab, how much percentage of every meeting they track us. And that they keep and they hold us responsible to that.
Yes.
So I think that is important first in their own minutes. Give them the attendance tracker.
Understood. So let me ask, just to clarify, what I'm hearing is that within the minutes that the clerk's office is sending the council monthly, you would like a report on who is missing those meetings?
No,
who has been dismissed?
Yes.
Only?
Yes, because who is missing is between those people, so we can't hold them responsible for, they missed 1 or 2, that's not our role. Anyone who is dismissed comes to the reason, cause to at least let us know that's happening.
Okay. And again, just to confirm, this is a monthly report and not a report that will be given during the recruitment season.
Yeah, that's fine. As long as we know the names, that will be, for me, it will be much better than next time thinking about something else.
Anyone who hasn't spoken yet want to speak before we recircle some more? Okay. Councilmember Johnson, please.
So let me clarify. We're talking about 2 different things here, and I agree with you. We want to know when somebody is removed from the committee as soon as possible, so we are aware of that.
Yeah.
So that's one thing. But we also want to know who's requiring a meeting, or somehow track who is causing a meeting, who is causing a quorum not to be met, so a meeting then it doesn't happen.
Okay.
And for me, I want that even if nobody even shows up that night. Like even if you all know like 24 hours in advance and the meeting is canceled 24 hours in advance because you know you're not going to have a quorum, I want to know that data too. Not just people showed up and didn't have a quorum. I want to know even if the meeting didn't occur because
Yes.
there wasn't a quorum. So I just want to make that clear too.
Okay.
So to clarify that a little further, you'd want to know who was committed to going, who wasn't
That's
committed to going,
That's right.
and the fact that the meeting didn't happen.
That's correct. That is correct. That's correct.
So, and just to jump on that a little bit, for meeting minutes, it might be nice, although it's another thing to track, how many meetings have been held that calendar year, each person's name on the committee, and how many of them they did attend.
Yes.
That would be, and then every minutes you know.
I can give you
what it is.
one of the minutes from Wait Mail, how they track it. It's in the first page, they give that.
Yes.
I missed one, 88%.
Right.
Oh. And everybody knows right away.
Right away.
Mayor
That's
and
not
council,
bad.
if I may, so I think we've heard several suggestions tonight just to allow us to keep the conversation moving so that Bianca can continue. I know she's got several points she wants to cover with you all. We'll recap once we get to the end of the discussion and make sure we sort of capture everything, and then that will allow us an opportunity to also make sure that we cover anything we need to in the upcoming training she has scheduled so that we and all of the staff liaisons are on the same page, if that's fair. Okay. Thank you.
All right. To continue to slide 7, this focuses on meetings continued. So we suggest that the subsection on agendas reflect the same timeline that is used for publishing town council agendas. Staff's recommendation is that specifically agendas should be published on the Friday before the meeting is held. The requirement by law it states that 48 hours before a meeting is held, but again, we want to resemble town council and its processes as much as possible. So moving on to the next section concerning minutes. Minutes have been noted as being approved, but not signed by the chair or vice chair. I am not sure if you have noticed from the minutes that I've been sending you on a monthly basis, but we would like to add verbiage that reflects, again, the approval process that town council has. When things are approved, they're signed by the chair or vice chair, and they should be signed, the documents, I mean, at the end of the meeting if they have in fact been approved. Lastly, the request for shared minutes to be approved by the leadership team and emailed to committee members within 7 days needs to be added language in the next column for the inclusion of the deputy town clerk as well in those emails. Excuse me. So to further explain attendance, as mentioned before, the following verbiage in the current policy states that, or implies that 11 or less meeting scheduled dates, and then advisory committees with 11 or more meeting scheduled dates, they can miss the same amount of meetings. In some cases, the advisory committees who miss 11 or less can miss even more than the meetings held by other advisory committees for 11 or more. So staff recommends that we, one, change and differentiate the numbers between 11 or less and 12 or more. And this, by changing the fraction of meetings that can be missed to a percentage instead.
Would you like questions at the end or as we go?
I would prefer as we go.
Okay.
Yes.
If I can make a suggestion, there's
Of
a really
course.
finite number of meetings that there are going to be.
Yes.
Like 11, 12, 9, 10. Just make a chart and say, if there's 10 meetings, you can miss this many. But then you have to, what if a meeting doesn't happen? Does
Right.
that count towards all that other stuff?
So the policy specifically says scheduled meetings on a calendar year.
Okay, so those are not changing.
Right.
So we can just say, okay, you can miss 3 meetings. After that, you're done.
So again, this would depend on the number of meetings that are scheduled per advisory committee.
Right.
So I definitely can produce a chart for you. There is a chart online on our website that states what advisory committees meet monthly. They might skip a month, and that kind of verbiage is also shared within the emails when I'm sending minutes.
That's just another good thing for people to know going in, that there are 9 meetings of this
Yes.
each year. So just make that real clear, and if you
Yes.
miss 4, you're gone, or something like that, so people know going in, because this is just pretty complicated.
It is pretty complicated.
So if we can simplify it for everybody involved, that might be nice.
Yes.
It's always been complicated.
So does that sound like something doable?
So what I'm hearing is that depending on the advisory committee and how many times they meet a year, we need a set number instead of a fraction or a percentage of meetings missed.
I think that's reasonable, because that number is set already, so no one should have to calculate it. It should be just
Understood.
dictated by us and made really clear.
Okay.
I just want to offer an example. So this is something that Bianca and I and Brandon discussed as we were going through this policy and chatting about some of the challenges. And for a committee that meets every month, so they have 12 meetings, the policy indicates that they can miss up to 4 meetings before they're dismissed. So that means theoretically they would only have to attend 8 if that's the way someone chose to approach it. Then perhaps 2 meetings get canceled, so then that is now only 6 meetings, and then, any number of things can happen. That means someone has been appointed and holding a seat in that committee and may only, to your point, have to attend 50% of those meetings because of the way the attendance policy currently reads. That's how we settled on the percentage. I do think to get to some middle ground of what you are all expressing concern about, where committees are having quorum issues, I think a more clear attendance policy is very likely the way to go to help right-size that a little bit based on experience and what we have seen. So just wanted to offer that for some clarity.
I like that it's scheduled meetings as our basis, so even if they're canceled, fine.
Thank you.
I'm sorry. So
Of
where did we
course.
end on that? Because I only heard one person. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
If we want to go, whoever wants to throw an idea next, we're here to listen.
So I'm concerned that we're getting back to somebody could miss 50% of the meeting. I don't want that. I don't want that at all. So
Yes.
if what you're proposing really sticks to 25% and doesn't give them, then I want to do what you're suggesting, quite frankly. I hear how easy it might be, but 25% of 12 is not a hard number.
Yes.
Anyhow.
And ultimately, for the 12 meetings, it's still the same number, just a different way to word it for all of the other advisory committees who meet fewer times a year.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree.
Oh, yes. It's not facing me, sorry.
I just wanted to point out that we have 24 meetings a month, and we can miss 3 before we're hot water, and that's 12%. So I don't really understand where we, how do you even say that a committee that meets 12 times a year should
So just to add on to that, the advisory committee members are not given the option to attend virtually. So we might want to consider that because they are not allowed or able to attend virtually, some grace between those absences.
Councilmember Fender, followed by Councilmember Scroggins Johnson, please.
I'm okay with the percentages. I just want to clarify, when you say scheduled meetings,
Yes.
are those the meetings that actually occurred?
No, those are the meetings that are scheduled for the next calendar year. So, for example, in January, advisory committees and staff liaisons will work with the communications team to kind of timestamp and date the set meetings scheduled for every month. You'll see it on the calendar website, the website calendar, and I'm not sure if we're doing that next year, but the tangible calendars that we're given, yes, the wall calendars that we're given around that time as well. So that is just what's already been pre-scheduled, or I guess anticipated to be held in a year.
Okay, so if that's the case, doesn't this alleviate the issue about penalizing a committee member who doesn't show up and a quorum is unable to be met, and then you're not counting the absence? You don't count it as an absence.
Right.
But if you're looking at this, 25% of all scheduled meetings, seems like
Yes.
you're taking that into account. I may not be explaining that well.
That's all right.
Huh?
Can you? That's okay. Can you try to re-explain to me one more time, please?
Well, previously we were talking about our concern that if a person does not show up to a meeting that is scheduled, but then they're not able to meet quorum,
right?
Then it's not counted as an absence.
That's correct.
But then here we're saying they have to attend. Oh, they'll only be allowed to miss 25% of scheduled meetings.
That's right. So ultimately, the math would be, say if it's 12 meetings a year for one advisory committee, and they do not meet quorum twice a year, then it would be 25% of 10, which is 2.5, rounded to the nearest number, which is 3.
So that's different than what you just said. You said 25% of 10, but you said scheduled meetings were what is on the calendar.
Yes, there are 12 scheduled meetings on the calendar. The meetings that do not reach quorum are not counted against. It doesn't make those meetings 10. It still makes it 12, right? But because they did not reach quorum, it is not an absence.
But we're saying here they're not allowed to miss more than 3 out of the 12, and this does not take into account whether there was quorum or not. Yeah, so we're saying two different things. Either
I'm going to defer to Aaron. Yes.
If I can offer what I think I'm hearing, we need to clarify scheduled versus held meetings.
Right, because
at least in this instance, but I apologize.
Well, and I interrupted you. I think it's not just clarifying. It's these two contradict each other, or they're not in alignment with each other. They're saying two different things.
So thank you for that feedback. And I think your conversation and dialogue here illustrates one of the reasons we wanted to bring this conversation forward is because there are several areas that need clarification or might have some contradictory statements or inferences. Where we read it as scheduled, you read it as held. And that's where we need to ensure that we are all on the same page, because it's your policy for those members of the community that you appoint to these committees, and then that we as staff support. So we all need to have shared understanding. So I read scheduled and then understand held differently, but for all intents and purposes of counting attendance, I know we can only count that for held meetings. However, if council determines you all want to count attendance for all scheduled meetings, I don't know that definitively. That may be something you could do. I think we would just need to have that discussion and understand if that's the direction you would want to go.
But here you're saying they can't miss more than 25% of 12 scheduled meetings.
Yes, that is not to include meetings missed by not reaching quorum.
All right, you used 2 or 3 negatives.
Okay. I think this is, yes.
Yeah. Sorry.
I'm going to build on your stuff. So, first of all, the public doesn't know the difference between held and scheduled in the way that you do. So it's really important that we're laser sharp on a scheduled meeting. There's a schedule of meetings every January that's published.
Yes.
A meeting is held if a quorum is reached.
Yes.
If a quorum is not reached, it is not held, but it might have been scheduled.
That's correct.
Okay. Now, if I am on a committee for 12 meetings a year and it doesn't reach quorum for 2 of those meetings, and I am thinking, hey, if I miss 3 meetings that year, then I'm out. But all of a sudden, there's only 10 meetings and I miss 2 meetings. Is that 25%? Is that fair to me? Because I have my schedule that I know I'll miss 2 meetings, and because the quorum wasn't reached a couple times, now all of a sudden I'm in jeopardy. So I'm not wanting to solution this tonight, but I do think we need to think about scheduled, held, quorum, penalty. I really like the tally of who shows up versus who doesn't. I think that's going to give us some insights as to some patterns of some committees which are struggling. I will say when I attended the SMART committee, there was a lot of the committee members that wanted to have the option for virtual meetings just because that's just how they live, they work, they communicate, and it's not just that committee, but it's mostly that committee has a culture of connecting virtually. So that's like a stretch goal. How do we consider a virtual attendance, or maybe there's a virtual meeting or something? There's a lot of, I'd like to see how the SMART committee is doing with the attendance, because a lot of those people might be traveling and, that we appoint in that specific committee. All of them, obviously, but being physically here for every meeting is a goal, but can we offer virtual one time or something? Something to noodle on. I also will do timekeeper check. We are at the 50-minute mark, and I know you have good things to share with us, so I just want to be mindful of time.
Yes.
Great. I'd like to recognize Town Manager Zudema, who might have something to add to this discussion.
So I think we've gotten good feedback. Let us use this feedback in this arena to bring back a recommendation and a red line. I think we can certainly look at scheduled meetings and how many of those scheduled meetings did you show up for regardless of enough of your committee members showed up to make it a quorum. I think the only challenge we may have in that regard goes back to what Councilmember Johnson referred to, is if we get enough information in advance that we know, for example, that 6 members of a given committee on an 11-person committee aren't going to be there, then you cancel that. But there could be an instance where 6 say no and 3 say yes and 2 don't respond. So we will have to include some language about those 2, because can you technically hold that against them? You don't know necessarily if they would have appeared just because they didn't answer an email. Or I'm not trying to overcomplicate it, but this is how complicated it gets. So I think we can work on that, and I think I would very respectfully, strongly discourage virtual meetings for advisory committees. I absolutely appreciate, Councilmember Scroggins Johnson, what you're saying, but I remind you of the challenges that we have had with holding virtual meetings where, some members are in person, some members are virtual. It's not the same engagement by any stretch of the imagination. And again, I think we do that with council because of the up to 30-plus meetings a year and recognizing the commitment there, as opposed to no more than 12 meetings a year for the committees, and in some fewer cases. Again, it just begins to complicate those meetings and other things. We will certainly listen to what your direction is, but my recommendation would be to strongly discourage against virtual meetings for advisory committees. Thank you.
Councilmember Scroggins Johnson, did you have anything else right now? Thank you very much. Nope, I hear you. Please continue. You're doing great.
All right, thank you. Continue on to slide 9, please. Staff members and staff liaisons have requested further guidelines for maintaining open communication between advisory committees and council. Section 9 highlights the need for clarity on which roles, such as the town manager, senior leadership, the leadership team, the clerk's office, the chair, the staff liaisons, on to who brings forth important information that feels needs to be discussed by advisory committees. So that's more so of a question for council rather than clarification or deletion of verbiage.
You mean like when we direct staff to say, please ask the committee about this? That happens sometimes? Yes, that happens sometimes, and I guess going up the ladder, if the staff liaisons are the only members who are attending advisory committees, is it the staff liaisons, role to come to the clerk's office, to the town manager, senior leadership's office? Their department heads aren't attending the meetings, and much of us aren't attending those meetings either. So I guess more so what I'm asking is, what is the process if advisory committee members or staff liaisons view an topic for discussion as so important to bring to council? I guess I'm not exactly sure, like a recommendation. Like we have a formal recommendation from PSAC about speed tables. So that there's a process for that.
Yes.
So are you saying something else like the sustainability committee might come in and say, let's get rid of single-use plastics? Does that come to us, or that decision was made and we were informed about it? So I'm trying to figure out what's the circumstance that might bring this.
Yes. So for that specific circumstance, what happened was that the staff liaison for MESC sent the clerk's department a request to kind of acknowledge that this policy was approved by town council, and then Aaron, I think it went to Brandon, and then Aaron came up with a plan to purchase reusable cups. Is that a process that needs to continue to happen when advisory committees feel a topic is so important to bring to council? Or is there another kind of process that council would prefer?
Councilmember Johnson, please.
So I think it would depend. So that's why I'm struggling with how to give you real clear direction. I think it would depend. I mean, I think some stuff doesn't need to come to council.
Understood.
I think some stuff is you don't need to wait to come to us. Just, if the staff liaison thinks it fits, that's go forward. But so I guess it depends. I'm not helping, Bianca. I'm sorry.
No, that's okay. This was just something, again, that staff liaisons questioned and wondered how they can bring their important topics to council. Was there a streamlined process to be able to do that? So,
I think Councilmember Fender and then Councilmember Body have thoughts. You were finished?
Yeah.
So I was just going to ask, was there recommendations or suggestions from the staff liaison or yourself?
Interesting. I think that the recommendation would be to follow, I guess, the stream, like the order of things. So if there is a advisory committee member, they would go to their department head. Their department head would probably go to the clerk's office. The clerk's office would therefore go to senior leadership team. That is, I guess, the flow that makes the most sense to me.
Sounds operational. Sounds very workable.
Sounds great.
I mean, I think the intent, is for everyone to feel empowered.
Yes.
So as low as we can go in the leadership to make things happen, that's great. And people know whether or not their department head, their leadership person would be okay with it or not, things like that. So
right.
I think it depends on the culture, because it sounds like it's more operational to bring things up, and I think it's generally up to the town manager what comes to the council.
Understood.
Councilmember Johnson?
Yeah, I'm going to agree with that, and I would hate that everything have to come that way, though, because that would take a long time.
Yes.
So that's why it depends. So, but yeah, I think that's appropriate, what you just suggested.
Councilmember Body, followed by the town manager, I think wanted to say something.
No, I was just going to, maybe perhaps clarify. I think just really affirming that you're comfortable that staff is your filter, as opposed to, I think, too many things that could come to you that we can handle, that we can direct, that we can address. So I think that's Bianca's question, perhaps stated differently, is confirming you're comfortable that we are your filter.
Yes. Sounds great. All right. Moving on to the next section, section 9. I'm so sorry. Give me 1 second. Section 10, committee appointment and recruitment. Recruitment and appointment processes in Section 10 also need updates. We recommend additional recruitment windows to fill vacancies quickly, mandatory orientation sessions for new committee members, and a structured timeline for recruitment cycles. This ensures that committees remain fully staffed and that members are properly trained from the start. To move on to Section V of the same subsection, the clerk's office felt it was necessary to cross-reference the PZB UDO terms for reference and for clarity. Lastly, concerning non-appointed applicants and application status, we also feel it was necessary to, when pulling the data from Granicus boards and commissions, to identify a set time frame on which the study and the data applications are pulled from. Any questions for this slide in particular? All right, moving on to slide 11. Moving forward, we plan to implement training again for board members and liaisons, establishing regular check-ins, and create processes for sharing best practices and observations across committees. These steps are designed to strengthen collaboration, ensure accountability, and align our advisory committees with council's goals. So next steps for council would be a proposed red line for review on November 26th, and then moving forward from there on December 10th, presenting a resolution to adopt the updated policy. So thank you for your time, and of course, I will do my best to answer any more questions that council feels like they have.
Councilwoman Johnson, please.
So, Bianca, go back to the moving forward slide.
Yes.
I just want to say, yeah, that is fabulous. That slide makes me happy. So, thank
That's
you for
wonderful
doing
to
all
hear.
that. That's a lot of work too. So, I appreciate that. The other thing I just want to mention on page of the actual policy itself, on page 4. We talk about the Senior Advisory Committee, and there's obviously those applicants need to be 55 and over.
Yes, that's
but
great.
There's also one item in there that says existing members as of adoption of these policies not living within the town's jurisdiction are grandfathered. And we did that for a long time because we had one member of that committee who kind of, when we changed the policy that you had to be a Morrisville resident, he kind of got caught in that. And so we kept that in there specifically really for him. He's not on that committee anymore, so
Yes.
that language could actually be removed from the policy. As long as we're working on the policy, we might as well get rid of that because we don't allow anybody but town residents. So.
Do I have consensus for that language to be removed from the policy?
Are there head nods that consensus for that to come out just before we bring that back? Okay.
All right. Are there any further questions?
Thank you very much for all the hard work.
Yes,
Appreciate
thank
it.
you. Thank you.
Good team.
One last thing, Mayor.
Yes, please.
So again, we have brought proposed changes to you. If you have the opportunity and choose to review that policy, if there are other things that you would like to see differently, please feel free to send those to Bianca in advance, or be prepared to discuss those the 26th during the briefing. We can certainly make additional changes if necessary before bringing it back on consent December 10th, so we can then move forward with the training shortly thereafter.
So just to clarify the question, it seems to me that order of events is rife with possibilities for one of us to suggest something that no one else would agree and have Bianca put it in the policy and bring it back to council. Can we think about that for a second, make sure that's how we want to do it?
I think we would bring any of that back to you the 26th with seeking consensus. We won't necessarily do a red line adjustment based on one person, but I think it lets us prepare a list of questions to ask in advance during that meeting rather than necessarily just waiting for all the conversation to occur. It just might expedite the discussion of the 26th. But thank you.
So you're bringing back a new updated red line based on tonight.
Yes.
And then a list of questions of other suggestions from us in the meantime, if there
Yes.
are any.
Right.
And perhaps potential language that could be incorporated. That would be the next step if we
Yes.
did say yes to those.
Yes, I believe so.
Or would that be too much work? That would be a question whether or not that would be kind of saving time. So like if we did implement this, this is what it would read.
Yes, sorry. Yes, so part of what the plan is that we have discussed is using your feedback in the background. We have already been going through and scrubbing the policy and starting the red line revisions. We will take your information, your feedback tonight, continue to work on that, take any additional feedback you might offer, and prepare any additional proposed revisions, red lines. If you all offer some additional feedback or guidance, that'll come back to you, as Brandon said, on the 26th. If there's consensus for that, we would then take that back and bring you another revised red line for consideration on December 10th. But yes, part of that red line process is if anything changes, that revised language is included in that red line. So I think that was a very long answer unintentionally.
I'm sure it'll work out fine. Okay. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
We good to go right into the next work session? Okay. And, recognize. So, Ms. Hudson, would you like us to wait till, well, just let us know how you want the flow of this one to go.
How long can you all hang with me? Sure. I feel like we can do this. Sorry, I got way too many technology things. Okay, thank you again, Mayor, members of the council, for some time this evening to cover the process for updating your next legislative advocacy agenda. So, quick outline for tonight's presentation is to sort of cover past, present, and future. I want to talk a little bit about municipal advocacy goals and the town's legislative priorities that were established for the 23-24 biennium. I want to talk a little bit during that time about what that legislative session looked like as far as any session law that took place that was really beneficial to the town and to local government, or was maybe a little more challenging. Also talk about ways that we collaborated with regional and community partners, and also some challenges and opportunities. Then we'll have some time for review as far as what you all shared with me in the feedback survey, and as well as what I received from our department leadership staff in that feedback survey. And then we have also prepared a short list of other areas that you all may want to consider for some discussion. And then we'll wrap up sort of that forward-thinking time of what it's going to look like for the next couple of weeks as we continue to work on this, and then also sort of looking ahead. What happened as far as representation at our local, state, and federal level following last Tuesday's election, and how we also continue to build those relationships moving forward. So first I'm going to start with, like I said, a quick overview of taking a look back at this last legislative biennium and what was established as our priorities, where we aligned with the League of Municipalities' priorities, where did we see any wins, challenges, and opportunities for the future. So very quickly here you see the core municipal principles and the legislative goals that were established by the League of Municipalities. We're very fortunate that we have had a number of staff serving on the Legislative Policy Committee at the League of Municipalities for the last several years. I think when I looked back, we've had staff serving since at least 2015, at least staff and or some combination of council. Our very own Mayor Pro Tem Garamella, I believe, is on the board of the Legislative Policy Committee. Our own Town Manager Zudema is also on that Legislative Policy Committee this year. So these are the legislative goals from the prior biennium. They have not yet put forward the new identified work for each member municipality to vote on. But again, just wanted to bring this forward for a reminder. So this is the legislative advocacy priorities that the town put forward. We also aligned these in your adoption resolution with those focus areas and municipal principles with the League. This was really my first, I would say, multifaceted approach in working with council and staff to develop your legislative advocacy agenda, synthesizing over several discussions and having a really broad and robust approach. It seemed to work well, so we've taken that same approach this time. And I think it also gave us a good end product for our use. So as I said, we're going to take a short look back at some of the legislation that came forward in this last biennium. We want to see where we saw some alignment with our organizational priorities, where we saw some alignment with league priorities, or perhaps where we didn't. Also want to take note that staff felt that there was some really good legislation that was proposed in a variety of interest areas, but for any variety of reasons, those didn't come to fruition as session law. Also would like to remind council that staff follows, bless you, federal law so that we maintain an understanding of what is and could be available to Morrisville to support our needs. And that's where we've seen a lot of positive growth in our grants opportunities. So I'll share a little bit more about that in a future slide on collaboration. So to set the stage for these next few slides, the league focus area is the slide title. Our Morrisville priorities are in the boxes at the top. The green lit demonstrates alignment, may not be positive alignment, but alignment nonetheless. And the legislation is bulleted at the bottom. So I'm not going to cover every single one of these. I do want to highlight, relative to resilient infrastructure, I would argue this was a particularly challenging year for local governments and legislation that was passed that really challenged our development authority. All of the bills highlighted in red had some impact on limiting some of our local development authority. I've noted two of those were really broad-reaching, sweeping legislation, and Session Law 2024-49, which was building code regulatory reform. Our cohorts at the League of Municipalities stated that was the most consequential bill that municipalities faced this year, and it had nearly a dozen provisions directly affecting municipalities. But not everything was bad. So the very first one at the top, Session Law 2023-58, House Bill 130 for energy choice and solar decommissioning requirements, requires responsible disposal of all solar project equipment. It requires property restoration post-projects, and it did not impose unreasonable restrictions on local government. So that was something really favorable, I think, for local governments in that vein. So, as I said, I'm not going to cover every single bill that I've provided, but did want to give sort of a variety of options. Yes, thank you for that question. I've only highlighted session law. So tons of bills introduced that never made it to session law. Some made it to session law and were vetoed. So everything you'll see here is session law. So it is state law. So under healthy finances, we've had many, many ongoing discussions since I've been here about ways to support and maintain the revenue streams that we have, and either ways to expand or find new revenue streams so that we can continue to support our local government needs. So the House and the Senate failed to reach agreement on comprehensive budget adjustment to the budget that was approved in 2023 prior to their adjournment this summer, but they did agree to two appropriations bills, which are noted there on the screen in front of you. Let's see here. So the top one, Session Law 2024-39, authorized funding that had already approved raises for teachers, principals, and other school personnel moving forward. So while that may not directly impact us, it does impact our community, and it does impact communities around us. Both chambers passed the bill below there, which shifted local infrastructure projects that had been funded through the state's ARPA plan to instead be funded by state general fund dollars. That move eliminated any spending deadlines that were required for ARPA dollars. It also appropriated $67 million to child care to fill the gap that was left at the end of federal child care assistance in June. So some direct impact and some indirect impact. Not listed, but I did think it was worth noting is Session Law 2023-12. It was a revenue law clarification bill, provided clarity in areas of taxation that support our town revenue resources. So definitely some positive moves there. For adaptive municipal operations, part of the discussion that we had a couple of years ago was really at the time around opportunities for personnel training, particularly in the areas of crisis needs. So some of these bills are really pertinent to that, and some of them are indirect. So I'll highlight a couple of these as well. So Session Law 2023-134, the one there at the top, again, this is part of the Appropriations Act, so some adjustments to that budget. This bill had a provision that expanded the definition of minority businesses and hub. You heard Byron share earlier this evening that is one of the areas of expansion that Finance and Budget is looking at. So now there's greater opportunity for people to be included in those descriptions and have greater opportunity for success. 2023-137, the second bullet there, established supply chain disruption as an emergency. So it's added a new section that exempts from competitive bidding statutes any contracts for the award of goods or construction or repair work where required goods are listed in an emergency declaration arising from a supply chain disruption or listed in an order or regulation issued by the federal government under the Defense Protection Act. We have heard at least a couple of times over the last few years from our staff some of the challenges they've had trying to get specific supplies for some of our infrastructure projects. Apologies, very tongue-tied tonight. So just some of those things that we know can be very beneficial to us long-term. Not listed here, but again, worth mentioning, the Civilian Traffic Investigators Bill was passed this year. It's not, I won't say definitively, I don't believe we've enacted it here in Morrisville. I know they have in some other municipalities. It's an opportunity for local law enforcement agencies to hire civilians to help address traffic crashes that impede public streets or highways. They don't involve personal injury, but it does allow them to help sort of spread some of that workload where recruitment has been a challenge in local law enforcement. So some good updates there. So I was very challenged to try to find some substantive legislation that I felt really aligned back to vibrant communities and neighborhoods. And what I did do was look more for keywords instead of trying to find something that met and ticked all of the boxes. So what I really focused on here was workforce or affordable housing. And what I was able to find was a revision or a provision in the Appropriations Act for the Workforce Housing Loan Program. And that was passed in Session Law 2023-134. A couple of updates and provisions within that act that certainly make it more feasible and more accessible for folks in our state to access funding for workforce or affordable housing programs. So just one of the things that, like I said, it was a little bit of a challenge for me to find something that I felt aligned, but was able to come up with that. So this is actually probably one of my favorite parts of this aspect of what I do, is the collaboration. Our collaborative partners, the folks that we get to work with day in and day out, and this is by no means everyone, but these are sort of our heavy hitters. The Central Pines Regional Council, formerly TJ Cog, the League of Municipalities, and a Wake County Legislative Liaison Network. So the Central Pines COG deserves probably their own Morrisville employee badge. They have been such a tremendous assistance to town staff by means of grant assistance, assisting us with locating federal grants and providing a federal grants forecast, providing us access to software to track and search for grants in different ways than we ever had access to before. Our internal grants staff team engaged with them on a very frequent basis. We met monthly with them. They really provided invaluable insight for state and federal grant funding, so we're very appreciative there. The League of Municipalities, I think you all know what a great resource and partner they are to us as an organization. The League has, for as long as I've been here, convened a legislative liaison network. We met as needed, but the greater benefit I think there was that we regularly were contacted by either their grassroots advocate or their policy advocates, and they would share legislation with our network and ask for feedback or ask us to circulate it or ask for input. And that's really another way that helped us keep a finger on the pulse of what was really sort of happening even before we knew it was happening, because they were sort of our unclaimed lobbyist. You know, they're there, they're hearing the conversation, they're in the halls of the legislature, they know what's going on, and they reach out and they provide that information to us. That legislative policy committee I've already mentioned. Both staff and council have served on that policy for a long time, and that's really been beneficial. And the Wake County Legislative Network. So that's actually something that I started after conversation with Martha and Jeannie a couple of years ago, and did that really sort of using some resources that the League had provided, and got off to sort of a slow start, and we've kept at it. We have met monthly while the legislature has been in session. So we adjourned in July. We will have our next meeting again, I believe next Wednesday, to sort of recirculate and get ourselves ready for when the long session starts in January. Our group's focus is really on understanding local and broader legislative impacts within Wake County and learn from one another where we can really collaborate and best support and understand. Just because something may not impact Morrisville directly doesn't mean it may not impact Cary or Apex or vice versa. So really, really great group of folks there. Again, another really, really fun part of this role is the relationships that we're able to build and sustain with our delegates at the local, state, and federal level, and even non-delegates, just the folks that we've been able to make connections with and continue to lean on for insight and guidance. So Representative Maria Cervania has assisted us with sharing project requests to the state budget. She has met with us here on site. Many, many of these delegates have attended meetings here and events here, too many to name. Representative Liu also submitted our local project funding request to the state budget. She also collaborated on our behalf with Representative Aaron Perret, and we were awarded a Regional Economic Development Reserve Grant for parks and transit programs. Congresswoman Ross and Congresswoman Fushi, we've really started to, I think, build more of that relationship with Congresswoman Fushi. That office was previously held by Representative David Price, who I know many of you knew for a very long time. Several council members and a couple of staff members had a great luncheon with her staff back in September, able to really forge some relationships with not only her local staff but also her DC staff. And I think you all know just how supportive Congresswoman Ross has been of Morrisville. We have been the beneficiary of quite a few community project funding requests that she has found viable and submitted to the federal government budget on our behalf. She, again, has visited with us for meetings, for events. She was here in December of 2023 to visit with local small businesses who had been the recipient of some of those Small Business Administration dollars that she helped us to achieve. So again, great relationships that we certainly are going to continue to lean on. So real quickly, just want to talk about what some of our challenges and opportunities are. I would say that our opportunities or our challenges I don't see as a negative. I see them as just something we work a little harder on. We know we're going to continue to have to balance what private entity and private development desires are versus where local control and local development authority balances. We know that's just going to be something that we work on for the foreseeable future. Legislative activity is fast-paced. We see that a lot. As I mentioned, we may get an email or a text, a phone call, because somebody may be on Jones Street and something is happening, and then the next thing you know, that bill is on the floor. So it does require a good bit of attention and monitoring. I know you all have contacts, staff has contacts, and we do our very best to monitor that in a timely manner. The flip side of that is very slow-paced legislative activity. As I mentioned, we saw some really great legislation come forward, and then for any variety of reasons, didn't make it from one house to the next, didn't make it through crossover. Maybe that bill got stripped and changed. So some of those things that we see as well that can be a little bit of a challenge. We know our elected leaders often want to hear from other elected leaders. So that's where we as staff know that we have to be paying extra attention to when those communications come through. And when a request for information or a request for feedback comes through, and ensuring we get that to you all so that we can either request your input or ask you to reach out and share those advocacy positions. I've got a slide upcoming on any representative change following the November 5th election. Spoiler alert, there was none. So we're in a good spot. Relationship building. I think I just highlighted that on the last slide. We are in a really good position there as well, I think. We have a great local and regional network of legislative liaisons. We have a number of staff in not only the senior leadership, department head leadership, and trickling down through the organization who are affiliated with professional organizations. We have folks who really can claim because they are subject matter experts. We've got a really good, bright, talented group of staff to lean on. And as I mentioned, we've got continued collaboration with our partners that I highlighted as well. Okay, so now into the meat of the discussion. Councilmember Rabati, I'm doing my very, very best to hold on to our time box. So I issued separate surveys to town council and our leadership, department leadership staff, asking for feedback on our prior legislative advocacy goals and agenda priorities, looking for themes, commonalities, opportunities where we can narrow down or if we need to expand. So this is really the time for that conversation. And then my plan is to synthesize our discussion tonight, and then I can do a couple of things. If you all feel you need more discussion, we can do that. If you all feel that you're good with whatever you see and the conversation you have, we do have it on the schedule to bring back for a vote on December 10th. So we've got some time, but just want to put that out there to give you a little bit of context. So I'm going to start with council's feedback. So I didn't hear from all of council, but I do have here what was shared. So providing context for this slide, what you see in the green is the priority focus area from our last legislative agenda. What you see in the blue is that identified priority, that language that was included, and then that's where we can sort of determine if anything should be wordsmithed or changed or added or moved. And then that grayish section to the right is if you determine, this is great and it's very worthwhile. It may not have that statewide or broader appeal. This is really more of a local focus. So here at the bottom portion of the slide, you'll see what is representative of the feedback or other suggested priorities that was shared most recently. So again, at the top is your prior information, and at the bottom is your current information. So themes that jumped to me were certainly support for maintaining local development authority. You have shared that far and wide, most certainly. Municipal tools for increasing or additional revenue sources, eliminating or minimizing unfunded mandates, sustainability initiatives, and I sort of lumped in a couple of things there, so tree preservation, solar and EV chargers, and then meeting local transportation and mobility infrastructure needs and funding roadway, greenway, and bike ped projects. So I'll pause and ask if anything jumps out that you all may want to elevate from the bottom to the top, if you want to move anything left to right, top to bottom, etc. If I see it, I will jump on it, but if I don't, please help me. Councilmember Abadi. But I didn't want to not capture it.
Gotcha.
Thank you for calling that out, though, yes.
Because, I think, preserving our local authority is still incredibly important. Tools for increased revenue.
Yes, thank you. Feel free if you have suggestions on moving anything from the top to the bottom, or left to right, or bottom to top. That's sort of what I would love to hear from you all is if the elements that you included in your last legislative advocacy agenda, you're not sure if they still fit in the location where they are and you want to move them around. That's what I want to hear. Or if you have other ideas, I want to hear those as well.
Funding for roads and greenways, bike, that is pretty much needed for us. And also alternate or enhanced tools to allow local governments to incentivize, support workforce housing needs. For me, I something, I don't know if it's a UDO amendment or what, or like something coming from the legislature, but I think it's a gray area where we don't have proper, we have our affordable housing plan, but that's just a plan. And sustainability, I think we have covered most of them. Like if you look at a tree preservation, we have already done the UDO. So what is the asking the legislative people there? That's where I'm not understanding. Yes, that is correct.
We're not allowed to do.
Yeah, and I don't. Yeah, and I don't think we will ever win that battle with single-family home with home builders.
But that's where it comes into local development authority.
Okay, got it. Then EV chargers, we are already put that in multifamily as a UDO, right? Like they have to give stubs and all those things. So that is there. No, we in our UDO, I mean to say, we as a town are already doing that. We are the authority, like, we are, as part of our UDO and in the building requirements, we are telling them to put those.
Well, what I put there was for all, allowing us to require it for all commercial development.
So, good question. Let me jump to the staff feedback. I think you'll see, again, some very common themes. And then I also have a slide that encapsulates some feedback from some prior budget surveys, discussions, some other more some other more recently captured feedback from the community. And I think you'll see, again, some very overlapping themes. So I would say you don't necessarily have to pare it down, but I might offer that I could group some like items, and if you all would be agreeable, I could also wordsmith if you want to switch up the priority focus area language, anything like that. I'm happy to take a stab at however you might want me to modify.
I think you know us pretty well, and that we react better to things that are kind of like that.
Okay.
So yeah, as you suggested, show us some more stuff, and we'll react to that.
Okay, so this is the feedback received from our department leadership staff. Did receive feedback from 7 of our leadership team members. And again, I think you see some very common themes to what you all have. So again, I placed your prior year priorities at the top, and then at the bottom, what I received as current feedback. So enhanced development authority, still there, maintaining regulation ability. You do see development, permitting, aesthetics, stormwater, because again, we did have some of those really broad, hard-hitting development legislative things happen this year that our staff are currently working through and will be working through for, I'd say, probably the next 6 months to a year as those continue to have effective dates. Revenue resources to move projects along that will enhance community quality of life and community safety, affordable and workforce housing. So again, I grouped a couple of like items to try to bucket things of that nature. Funding and resources, it's almost like you all got together to give your responses. state-funded transportation improvements for road project signals, bike ped, transactional training opportunities. I got some really good feedback from staff about training-related items, professional growth and development, succession planning, enhanced systems to provide regulatory requirements. So as things change at the state level and require new certifications or things of that sort, ensuring there are systems in place that allow people to obtain that training so that they can continue to meet those requirements. Crisis training at a local level. So I think there's an opportunity for training systems locally and at the state level. And also got some really good feedback on sort of the business economic development side, looking at public-private partnerships for major infrastructure projects, capital for small business needs, and business incentive programs. So again, some very similar themes to what you all had shared as well. And then this was the list that was developed, not meant to be all-inclusive or exhaustive, but just looking back at some of your prior discussions, work items, budget surveys, and feedback, some additional bullets just for consideration if by any chance you all maybe got stuck or needed some other prompts to consider. But I think you've got a lot of this already on that list. I think you're seeing a lot of those themes already there. So really, I think you've actually probably answered this question for me already as well, is whether or not you would want to continue forward with these priority focus areas, or if you want me to wordsmith those. I am happy to do that and allow you to have that opportunity to react to those and synthesize this information and conversation and share that back with you so then you can have that opportunity to react back to it. Councilmember Robati.
I would consider changing the order because their order seems like they're in priority order. So I would put the new revenue streams first and keep preserving local development part second, moving the support for local government and employee training to third.
I agree with that.
Councilmember Johnson.
So I even put that in my survey. My number one priority is to preserve what authority we have. That because that has eroded so. It's been bad over the last couple of years, and that's true too.
Is there consensus for the order if these three are maintained as worded? The local development authority, then expand or identify revenue streams, then support for local government training. Is that agreeable? That was the feedback that council provided 2 years ago. If I recall, without going back and looking through all of my notes and the surveys, there was a lot of discussion around crisis training and mental health. And there were several pieces of legislation coming about at that time as well. crisis training for law enforcement officials and things of that sort.
So, but I agree. Crisis time, we had it. DI, are we not having right now, or are we asking for more training? Because I understand we are just putting requests, and then it will get filtered up at NCLM board, and then they will advocate for whatever comes out as a bucket. But we have to be savvy. Then it's good to ask them, but are we lacking any of these things in that number one bucket from a town point of view? Forget the legislative.
So that's what this discussion is about. This is not for us to send to the league. This is for you all to determine what do you see as the priorities and the utmost concerns and needs for Morrisville, so that when those opportunities arise to have conversation with your local, your state, your federal delegates, these are the areas and the documentation that you go to say, this is the discussion we had with our elected officials, with our staff, with our leadership. We know these are the areas of concern for our community, and this particular legislation that's coming forward is not conducive to that. We have this need, etc. And that's why I mentioned the language doesn't have to stay like this. If there is consensus that training is an ongoing need, we can modify the language.
Yeah, no, 100%. And also, correct me if I'm wrong, we got $150,000 from Ross's office for the police or something. Those kind of opportunities are always there. We are not, they will not shy away, and we will not shy away from asking if there is something coming into it. That could be, I don't know what it was used for, but.
The most recent supported an upgrade that's coming to body-worn cameras.
Okay. That's right. Yeah, so those kind of things, we are always looking for, but at that time when we had crisis, or basically the COVID time and all kinds of things, it makes sense. At the time we did it, but now, not trying to undermine the staff training or anything, it is not really rises to the occasion of asking General Assembly do something about this.
If I may, I'll take back our discussion from this evening and see how it shakes out. If it's 2, if it's 3, if it's 4. And what I would also offer is what I've heard from our legislative delegates is the more vague, the better. And then bullets. We love detail. We work in local government. We want to know all the details. We want all the facts, all the figures. So let me take a look at things and re-listen to the discussion and play around with it and see where things fit and align most naturally. And I think we'll have something good. Mayor, I apologize. I'm not sure which one of you had it up first. Okay, sorry.
So I kind of 2 things. First, in regards to the training, I mean, from what you just said, we're going to be reaching out to Cervania and Lou and Ross and Fushi. What are our asks? So does staff feel like we need more help for state and federal funding for training? I guess is the question whether or not that should still be there. Is that something we're actually going to ask them to take back to their people and say, we need more training for our police or something like that? Or is that something that's not really going to do it? Or are we looking for grants there? As you mentioned, are there grants available, so we don't really need to make that a priority? One thing that we didn't really touch on, except maybe under the 3, expand and identify new revenue, if you want bullets, Aviation Parkway is delayed. 54 is delayed. and the Crewman flyover is not going as quickly as we need more funding to DOT so that our projects stop being delayed. That would be a primary ask, I think, for our town's needs. And that's not really spelled out. That's not vague. But if you want bullets, those are some bullets.
Yes, and I think what we can do is offer, ways to ask the legislature to help mitigate delays of NCDOT-funded projects, and then our talking points for those conversations can be, this project has been delayed, this project has been delayed, and this one, and these are greatly impactful to our community and to our visitors and to our economic development. And I don't know that those specific projects need to be outlined in the legislative advocacy packet, but I do think we can speak to the delay of projects and what that impact can be.
Yeah, because our residents say that transportation and traffic is the biggest thing. So we want to make sure that's something we can speak to and we have it.
Yeah, Councilmember Johnson.
So I think I would swap out that first one, Aaron, and I would call it infrastructure. And with a heavily, like even transportation infrastructure, and then kind of group all that stuff under that. Because, obviously that you need revenue to push all those projects forward, but I see the revenue bucket a little differently too. I see it as not losing the revenue sources we have today and expanding on them. So I see it a little different. So I would do an infrastructure transportation bucket, quite frankly.
And what you're saying, the revenue is really for municipal, helping municipalities being additional revenue.
That's right. That's right.
And really the transportation, I still think the onus is at the state level for them to fund our roads instead of delays.
Did you get to complete your thought? Okay. Councilmember Allen, Councilmember Rabati.
Yeah, I'm just confused about this legislative agenda. Is this for our town to go to the General Assembly, right?
Correct.
So are we not considering, and maybe it's already a part of our strategy, but I think it needs to be a bipartisan approach where we're going to the leaders in the legislature that are Republican, the new speaker, Destin Hall, and others, because they're the ones that really are controlling the funding, appropriations, and things like that. So I think I'm fine with meeting with our delegation, but the fact is that they're not going to really have the voice. They can represent us, but in terms of getting dollars for our roads and things like that, I think it's going to be that. And one thing that I've thought about, which I was going to bring up during the retreat, is that I do think that it would behoove ourselves to look at perhaps rendering the services of a part-time lobbyist, because I see a lot of local governments doing that, and I think it's a more effective strategy to have one person that's taking this agenda and working, because that's what they do for a profession. And so I just think, and I know it costs money, but if you have a specific ask, the towns that are doing this are getting specific projects and things like that. So it's just food for thought, because I just feel like if all of us go to the legislature with like Mayor Pro Tem had a good point. I mean, we can go to them for employee training, but if it's not a part of their priority, and for like DEI, we know that they're cutting DEI funding.
Well, we're not advocating for that anymore right now either.
Oh, but it's
we're already discussing removing that top one.
Well, I think let me ask.
I don't mean to be difficult. I just want to know what the goal is and what we're trying to achieve, and I don't want to go to legislature and have a conversation, and then we're back to square one. I mean, it's going to take. But anyway, I'm not trying to complain. I'm just trying to be realistic here.
That's okay. Let me ask a clarifying question. I think Town Manager Zuderman may have a comment as well. So if I'm understanding you correctly, let me clarify. This is not a list of our requests to go to the agenda. This is a list of topics and areas that we know we would want to advocate for because we know we have concerns or needs within these areas. And so that's where you all would have the opportunity, because we would share this approved document on your behalf with the legislature, with our other partners, and then as stated for Mayor Colley, we can develop those talking points of, yeah, if it's related to infrastructure, we know we've got these 5-10 projects that we can speak to, and we can get you some talking points on it, and it correlates with our legislative agenda in this way. So if I'm understanding you correctly, it's not a list of our requests, but it's a list of our areas of priority need, and then we know we have specific projects or requests that could come under that. Does that help?
Yeah, okay.
Okay.
I think so.
Town Manager Zudema, did you have a comment?
No, I think you covered it.
Okay.
Sorry.
Sorry. Councilmember Robati, and then Councilmember Johnson, did you have something else? Okay. And then Mayor Pro Tem Garamella without his blue card.
Yeah, I just wanted to say if there's going to be a new infrastructure bubble topic, I think it would be, we could even fit more under that topic if we identified it as mobility rather than infrastructure, enhanced mobility, because then we could include things like the smart shuttle, the greenways, it just opens us up to a broader range of topics that could potentially be explored.
Councilmember Johnson. Sorry, Mayor Pro Tem.
Yeah, I think what Steve said something has sense to it, because the veto can be stopped because the supermajority is there in like in the House, but end of the day, they have the Republicans control both the houses, and it would not be, since we are local here too. It's not like we are in Asheville trying to come to the General Assembly. It would not be. I think we should all make the effort to go talk to them. And one thing they may like or not like is immaterial, because one thing which is most important is the airport and RTP. So they are pumping a lot of money in infrastructure for the airports. So that was the reason 284 and 285 got the extra lanes and all those things. It's not because of Morrisville. We happen to be there, but it is because of the airport, which is getting, and big tech is one more thing, and basically we are heart of RTP. So using that and as a criteria and go talking to them, I think at least it can't go wrong, is what I would say. And I'm more than happy, along with our council, to go and talk to them, because that's what, when I was on the board with NCLM with Jennifer Robinson, we used to go and talk to each and every person, Nelson Dollar at the time, because he was appropriation at the time, he was holding it, so I think that has to be done. Otherwise, we can sit all day, nothing is going to move.
So we're on the same wavelength. I think I too like being pragmatic and realistic, and I think the town of Morrisville going to Dustin Hall, he's not going to take the meeting. We're not in his district. I mean, to be fair, so you need another hook. You need
well, she has a representative too.
Well, so you need another hook, and the league it has that hook, because I did the same thing when I was on the league board. We met with leadership in the General Assembly because we were league board members. So that's why the league is so important. But anyhow, I don't want everybody wasting their time and energy for some meeting that's not going to happen.
But back in the day, we brought Speaker Moore here. He met with us. Remember, that was years ago.
Yeah, what was the hook though? That's what I'm saying. You gotta have a, is it Wake Tech coming with us? Is it the airport coming with us?
Yeah,
is it, anyhow, that's, I'm just.
Yeah, no, I gotta go.
So this is just a quick snapshot of next steps. Like I said, I will take your feedback from tonight. I will synthesize, and I will have a document for you all to react to. I do want to just maybe do a quick poll. Would you all like for me to circulate something to you to react to? Do you want to wait until December 10th to see it? You need a pre-read? Okay. So allow me just a little bit of time to get that together. I will circulate it to you via email. You can respond directly to me. Don't reply all. I'll give you those instructions in that email. And then that way you can be a little more prepared. And if you're ready, you can vote at the December 10th meeting. Post December 10th, if approved, we then share this with all of our partners and really sort of set the stage and get ourselves ready before the long session starts in January. Also, I did do just a quick snapshot of Morrisville's direct representation following November 5th. As I mentioned, no change. So as of this time, our direct leadership and delegation representation stays the same in the North Carolina General Assembly and the U.S. House of Representatives. Our representation on the Wake County Board of Education and the Wake County Commissioners, those seats were not up for election this session. All of those terms are through 2026. So they had several other elections, but not pertinent to the district seats that represent us. So just wanted to share that. Yes, ma'am.
Can you send us this updated presentation,
Yes,
please?
yes, thank you, and appreciate your allowing me extra time to obtain feedback from everyone and get that together for you.
It's my understanding NCLM might have their goals going out soon, so you'll kind of incorporate that into what you're giving back to
As
us.
soon as we get that draft and they put the ask out, we'll certainly be circulating and sharing that with you all. And if it's received in a timely manner, we'll definitely include that with your proposed resolution for approval as we did the last time.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Good
Thank
job.
you. Thank you.
Anything for the good of the order, sir?
I'm not sure if you all will include it in the distribution list from Derek Reamer about a survey feedback that they have sent out to key local leaders. The email should have come this morning.
Could you just go ahead and forward it again to everybody, if that's his intent?
I can if you have not received it, I can double check to make sure everyone receives a link, because I think it is important for you all to receive it. The intent is to be able to collect feedback about the work that Duke Energy is doing in the area and the work that Derek Reamer has been doing as the representative as well. So you don't have that email? Okay. We'll double check and we'll make sure you get a link. I do think it's important for you all to receive it, because I think that relationship and that partnership is really important for the town. So, but thank you. I will verify on that.
Okay. Thank you very much to everyone who were listening to this meeting of the Morrisville Town Council. Please join us again. Please send your thoughts to towncouncil@morrisvillenc.gov. I'd entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll make that motion. Second.
Motion from Councilmember Johnson, second from Councilmember Fender. All those in favor of adjourning, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, that carries unanimously. It's 10:19. Thank you all very much.